that's going to do it for another rock and roll pre-show, because now it is time for the only podcast that's guaranteed to eradicate COVID-19 in under 33 seconds. The never-dozing, media-exposing, truth-telling, always compelling, best damn podcast in the universe. I'll be back on Thursday for some more rock and roll goodness. But until then, I am Darren O'Neill. Over to you, Podfather.
Thank you, Darren O, the Rock and Roll Show pre-show. In the morning, everybody. It's Austin, Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for your Gitmo Nation National Anthem.
And you may sing along.
In the morning, Gitmo Nation, we are all charged up to be human resources and service in all lands and all ships at sea. From the east to west, down under to the lowlands and beyond. We are happy and distracted slaves. Hear our Gitmo Nation song.
In the morning! Shut up, slave!
Yes, the beaches are back open. Woohoo! Yeah!
Should I make you play sound clips on command, directing you guys on from high to do my bidding, like my own personal sound monkeys?
Right to the allegation made. Do you remember her?
No.
Hey, Joe.
Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened.
Hey, Joe.
Why limit this only to Tara Reid? Why not release any complaints that had been made against you during your Senate career?
I'm prepared to do that. To the best of my knowledge, there's been no complaints made against me in terms of my Senate career, in terms of my office and anything that's been run. Look, this is an open book. There's nothing for me to hide. You all know what the phrase rule of thumb means? No man has a right to chastise his woman with a rod thicker than the circumference of his thumb.
For complete transparency, why not push for the release of any documents with Tara Reid's name on them, whether it's at the University of Delaware or the National Archives?
First of all, let's get this straight. There are no personnel documents. But you can't do that. You wouldn't, for example, if you worked with me or I worked for you and you had my income tax returns, you had my whatever. They're private documents. They're not for they don't get put out in the public. So they're not part of the public record that in fact is that any senator or vice president or president has in their documents. Look.
Sound clips on command, directing you guys on from high to do my bidding, like my own personal sound monkeys.
John C. Dvorak. The Mavericks of Media.
Today, I am proud to endorse Joe Biden.
Are you home as well? We're seeing the soul of America now. Look,
I want to tell you about the Joe Biden I've seen working behind the scenes, hammering out solutions for the American people.
Stop the hammering!
Joe has been a voice of reason and resilience.
this is no, I don't believe so at all.
Stop the hammering!
It's not who we are.
Where's the hammer?
Joe Biden has been with us every step of the way to destroy every last benefit and protection for the American people. He knows how to get the job done.
There's a woman talking in my ear about something that has nothing to do with what we're doing here.
And reject governance.
Well, what's the big deal? Put people in cages. And it's logical and it's rational.
Where is it?
Helping create and save millions of jobs.
Where's the hammer?
We will deliver bold progress for the American people.
Crazy fucking sound coming in my ear, this fucking stupid hammering.
Because he never forgets his roots.
Windmills cause cancer.
The cancer moonshot.
It fucking sucks.
We need a forward-looking, battle-tested leader.
I was ready to prostitute myself.
Who will fight for the people.
Welcome, Hillary. It's great to have you here.
Regardless of your color, your creed, or your geography, I need you to know. Pop, pop.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player.
Big Mama. And speaking of mothers, do it for your abuela.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
How worried should Americans be about coronavirus?
Coronavirus is not going to cause a major issue in the United States.
China, the press is bashing Trump about this China flu.
Do you think there is blood on the president's hands?
He should have acted quicker on this little China flu.
We got started too late in the U.S.
You know Trump's on the television with his hair of orange. The press says he just wants to rule the world.
He's claiming that he has authorities that he doesn't have.
And the press is so excited about this little China flu. Trump says, just you shut your mouth.
You know you're a fake. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. He called me xenophobic. He called me a racist.
I have to tell you, that is the biggest meltdown I have ever seen from a president of the United States. He is out of control. He was ranting and raving.
Hey, in the morning.
Ranting and raving was out of control.
Out of control, I tell you. It's just out of control. No control, out of control. I need to check something here. I'll make sure this is working.
This facility in Shoreline is...
Okay. It's a working. Bo, 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 bo. Little...
You might as well queue up. The beaches are opening. Woohoo!
You think I didn't have that ready? Who the hell do you think I am?
Yes, the beaches are back open. Woohoo! Yeah!
Come on, man. Come on, man.
It's the yeah that makes it work.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's what he said to her.
Yeah, give me a little level, man.
I need a good de-douching. I thought I had contributed enough for official damehood, and I was off by $119.10. So I've just donated via PayPal $350 to bring me up to full damehood with a penalty for being inaccurate and causing strife.
Oh boy.
Strife. Like that. Can't thank you enough for giving me the benefit of the doubt. Do dames get to pick for the round table? That's a funny question. If so, please add a good dosage of aphids and other garden pests for me to nosh on. Dame Ladybug.
A little more, please.
Yeah, okay. Let me get another note. Find something that's more entertaining.
Yeah.
Not that that wasn't.
No, it was dynamite.
But, well.
Little China flu. Anything will do, really.
Yeah. I mean, I had to find some.
Really not an issue. Just you can just make something up.
Texas jury blocks dad from stopping his 7-year-old son's chemical castration. Because his 7-year-old wants to be a girl. On Monday, a Texas jury ruled that Jeffrey Younger, the father of 7-year-old boy James Younger, could not legally prevent the boy's mother and his ex-wife, Dr. Ann Georgoulas, from giving the biological male puberty blockers and cross-X hormones in order to chemically castrate the son, whom Georgoulas insists is a girl because of his fondness for the Disney movie Frozen. This actual story. Yeah, he likes Frozen. He must be a girl that's cut his nuts off. With a consensus of 11 of the 12 jurors, the jury decided not to grant Mr. Younger sole managing conservatorship over the two twin boys. They voted that the current joint managing conservatorship should be replaced by a sole managing conservatorship, but that Mr. Younger should not be that person.
Okay, and we are dynamite. We be dynamite. We be dynamite.
This was, I believe, this took place in Texas.
I believe you be right. We did that story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did that story.
A classic.
Yes. All right.
Fat lady!
Okay, I think she is ready.
Fat bitch! Valkyrie!
Yes!
It's the Norwegian
Hey, everybody, it's that time once again as we deploy the bat signal for episode 1239. Go out there, retweet the tweet, boost the toot. We're coming up with that next. right, we've bought a car, we've sold a car, jihad. Yeah, give me 1 minute, I'll be right back. Feel free to play. Hello? So I go downstairs, and Tina has the speakers on. It's very odd and eerie to hear that throughout the whole house. I mean, like, seriously, what? Okay, what do I hear something weird. What's going on here?
Well, yes, that would be creepy.
I hear.
Oh, here comes the Zephyr.
I'm hearing this weird. What is this?
1, 2. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. How about right on time, too? Jeez.
11:13, is that right on time?
Well, it leaves at your time would be, it leaves at, 11:12. Okay. It leaves at 11:10 from Emeryville.
Yeah, so it's very much on time.
It's about 2 miles from there. So if it gets off on time at 11:10 or 9:10 actually here, it should go by about 14 minutes after, or 13 ideally.
Okay. That's a little more info than I needed.
You asked.
I did. All right.
Asked.
We're good to go.
Hit it.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Sunday, May 3rd, 2020. This is your award-winning Gimbo Nation Media Assassination episode 1239.
This is No Agenda.
Celebrating Cinco de Mayo early and broadcasting live from Opportunity Zone 33 here, the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where they're celebrating the die-in, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Whoa, dude, low energy. What's going on? That was very low energy. I'm sorry. It just surprised me.
No, I mean, now you're going to make me even lower. I don't know if I can get
this should
my
help.
Energy back to normal.
This should help. We go to a live shot now, live audio of California, everybody. Let's turn on the camera here. Yes, there we go.
Yes, the beaches are back open. Woohoo!
Shut up, slave.
Whoa. What a mess out there.
I don't know what the story is.
Oh, my God.
They shuttered the beaches in Orange County because that's where the Republicans are. So no beaches for Republicans.
Oh, I hadn't even considered that was a Republican issue.
Yeah. And it's the only real, true, genuine Republican county, even though they have some Democrat in there that cheated it and it became a representative. But the rest of the state is open, kind of, except Northern California beaches are kind of blocked off because they don't want anyone going in there.
Right.
And I guess Huntington Beach got packed.
Well, we went out to dinner Friday night. Yes, because Austin and Texas is pretty much open.
Good.
Yeah. So the deal was, this is phase one. So restaurants can have 25% capacity, and there weren't really any other real clear rules. There's certainly no mandated mask. I went to HEB on Friday. They do want you to wear a mask in there. The little shops are open around here. So I went to the head shop to get some rolling papers, and they actually had a sign on the door, no mask, no service. I was like, all right, well, that's fine. But the restaurant, which is, it's one of Austin's best restaurants, in my opinion, the Lonesome Dove. And we went there with, have you been there? Because we went there with Fugazoto. We went there with the Horowitzes. And this is where they have
I never get invited.
This is where they have the elk meat and rattlesnake and that kind of stuff.
Oh, it depends. I went to a place that serves that sort of thing, but it was some years back, and I can't remember the name of the place. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't called a Lonesome Dove.
Yeah, you would have remembered. It's a very nice restaurant. Typical their regular capacity 260, so they could only have 60 people in. And here was the experience as we drove into town. Still kind of a ghost town, certainly for 6 o'clock Friday night. There was very little traffic. Parking right in front of the door on 5th Street. That's unheard of.
Yeah, don't get used to it.
No. So on the sidewalk out in front, there were about 10 social distancing lines on the sidewalk. We were the only ones. And the man with mask and gloves said, "Hey, come on, everybody." And so you get right in front, stand on the line. And he says, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take your temperature." So he took my temperature and he says, "You're 98.2. So, okay. He said, "Now you got to remember that because you got to write that down on the piece of paper inside." By the way, Keeper was 97.8 or something.
Huh.
Seems low.
Yeah, it does. I'd look into this.
So we go. I believe the original thermometer was a little off when this 98.6 was established. Didn't we talk about that not too long ago?
No. Well, we talked. No, we didn't talk about that.
We might have.
Talk about something else. It's similar.
Doesn't matter. So you go in, and at this point, we had our masks on just out of courtesy, not to get any stink eye. And then you sign in this little piece of paper. You write down your name. You write down your temperature, which I always said 98.2 FM. And then it says, you hereby declare that you have not been tested positive and, to your knowledge, have not been anywhere around someone who was positive in the past 14 days. Sign your name. It was that. So it wasn't really a huge waiver of any sorts. And then they sat us down, all the tables, 10 feet distance from each other. We literally sat in the middle, the only table in the middle of the restaurant. There are booths all around.
Spotlights on you.
Spotlights. We were the first ones, I think. Everyone was real.
Did anybody else show up?
Yeah. By the time we left, it was full. There's 60 capacity full. Probably 40 to 50. But we talked to the server, and she said that it looks like they were full for that evening. But of course, they're not going to make any money. It's just continuity. And they had.
Did you have a snake?
I had the rattlesnake sausage, and I had the elk loin. I could not resist. It was so nice. It was really nice to just be out and have some dinner and drink some wine and chat.
Go out and have some snake.
Yeah, it's Texas. So really, just evaluating what I've seen over the past couple of days, it feels very open. I know not all businesses are back, and of course, gyms aren't open. And there is one thing that is kind of nasty, is that because phase one does not include hairdressers, barbershops, nail salons, everybody's got dark roots, shitty, splotchy gray. Women's nails look like crap. We look horrible. But we're free here in Texas. Unlike what's going on in Chicago. This is the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot.
Hold on a second. Before you leave Austin.
No, I'm sorry.
I wanted to, you might as well, because you're talking about eating the rattlesnake and gorging on elk meat. There's other people who are thinking in other ways. I want you to play this clip. This is Alex Jones.
Even I didn't get this clip. I'm like, I'm not going to get this clip.
You brought up eating in Austin.
Why do you want? I'm curious.
He is in Austin.
I'm curious. Why is this clip of any importance to you? Because Alex Jones has some great clips. This is stupid. Why?
You're going to condemn my clip before even playing it.
Because I've received this clip from 50 people. I'm like, okay, that's funny. But it's not
because
that
it's
funny.
in popular demand.
I will eat my neighbors. I'm not letting my kids die. I'm just going to be honest. My superpower is being honest. I've extrapolated this out, and I won't have to for a few years since I got food and stuff.
Yeah, it's not even the full original clip. It starts with, I will beat my neighbors, and then he says, eat my neighbors. It's just, I think there's a lot of fun growing babies and cows, but did you really laugh out loud?
Well, I don't normally laugh out loud, but the reason I want this clip because I got 2 ISOs from it.
Okay, let me see. Where is the...
I got Jones eat you.
Where are we? That's odd. Oh, here it is. All right.
I will eat your ass.
And the less profane version, which is under less profane.
Okay.
Think about having to eat my neighbors.
Okay.
Thank
you for interrupting my flow. Thank you. That's fantastic. I think I have better for end of show. And you interrupted something really much more humorous.
Well, it's not going to be less humorous.
Here is Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
We will shut you down. We will cite you. And if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period. There should be nothing unambiguous about that. Don't make us treat you like a criminal. But if you act like a criminal and you violate the law and you refuse to do what is necessary to save lives in the city in the middle of a pandemic, we will take you to jail, period.
Based on
there's ISOs in there.
Yes, I got other ISOs, but I thought that was unbelievable. We will hunt you down.
Does anybody notice that there's Democrats and there's Republicans, and the Democrats are the ones making these sorts of comments and the Republicans are the ones opening their states?
Yes, Twitter noticed that because, of course, it's the Trump supporters who are going to kill us all. Obviously. Of course they noticed that. And oddly enough, there's a lot of them in New York City. Bet you didn't know that, huh?
Democrats?
Yeah, no, Republicans, crazy Republicans in New York City who are endangering the lives of everybody.
I don't believe there's a single Republican in New York City, but
well, who is it then? If it's not Republicans, it can't be Democrats.
Libertarians?
According to New York City Police Department Chief of Department.
CBS 2 has learned that an army of NYPD officers will fan out across the city this weekend to make sure that people are wearing masks and maintaining social distance. CBS 2's Marcia Kramer has this exclusive story.
You might say it's no more Mr. Nice Guy. The NYPD will be out in force at parks, beaches, and playgrounds this weekend to make sure New Yorkers don't get up close and personal with each other, that everyone observes social distancing.
We're past the point of warnings. This is a dangerous situation.
NYPD Chief of Department Terrence Monahan telling me that New Yorkers drawn out of their homes by the expected sunny skies and warm temperatures this weekend will see a large police presence, 1,000 cops, all 5 boroughs, to keep New Yorkers safe by trying to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Barbecues with large gatherings of people together, organized sports event, people hanging together trying to drink or something along those lines. We will be breaking these up. We will be actively involved. People who are just walking together, exercising on a blanket with their family, those aren't people we're going to bother. If they don't have a mask, we'll give them masks.
Will you really arrest people?
If they confront us, if it becomes an incident, yes, we will. If it has to be, yes. I hope it never comes to that, though, Marcia. People should understand just how dangerous a virus this is.
Yeah, must be those nutty Republicans. No, man, Americans want to get back to work. That's what's going on. And I think we figured it out. Over the weekend, the CDC released their revised death data of COVID-19 because it was up to 66,000. That was, I believe, tracked through the influenza-like illness network. And they came out and revised it. They separated it out. It's not 60,000. It's not 66,000. It's 37,000.
How does it drop so much?
Well, that is an excellent question. That has not been explained. You can see it. They've released it on their website. But if you look on social media, the answer is, of course, man, there's a lag in the data. There's a lag. There's a lag in the data. And
what did you just say?
There's a lag in the data.
Oh.
There's an 8-week lag in the data. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, well, that's okay. That's fine. But could the CDC and Dr. Birx perhaps explain this so that we're not all sitting around during the weekend going, you guys are full of crap? Because this is
right, which is what you would end up. Yeah.
That's completely insane. So, even if
why do so many people out there who moan about the lag in the data and all the rest and want to arrest people and throw them in this jail for just standing outside? I mean, it's getting to the point where I can see where some people like Andrew Horowitz, his sister apparently is a Trump nut.
Oh,
and it's getting worse. This idea that this whole thing is just ginned up to ruin the economy, to put us all in rags, so Trump gets voted out and Biden becomes the president.
Yeah, that's a very simplistic look at the situation.
You think?
Yeah, to me, it's much, much bigger. This is about total control of population. Look at where you are. Look at the situation you're in. You are literally in your house unconstitutionally without this being a law, and you can't go anywhere, and you're getting threatened by your mayors and your chief of polices, and that's crazy. This is a voluntary thing. It's voluntary. Congress shall make no law is the first words of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law against freedom of speech. Actually, we should probably read it verbatim.
Freedom of assembly. Assembly is another one.
No, religion comes first.
No, I'm just saying it's another one on the list. An assembly, religion's another good example where people are not allowed to go to church.
Here, we'll read it verbatim. Congress shall make no law. That means you already have these rights because Congress can't make any laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, i.e., going out to a funeral with your kuli. And by the way, all the Hasidic Jews, they had masks on. I saw them in New York. Going to church, going to temple, Ramadan, yes, the Ramadan eating. Thank you. Or abridging the freedom of speech, which I've always disliked, the abridging, because there's wiggle room in there. Or of the press. Notice speech comes before the press. Or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So going to the Capitol and standing there peacefully and saying, hey, we have an issue is completely constitutionally legal. So if people think this is just about the Democrat, this is happening worldwide, people. This is every country, almost every, there's a few exceptions notable, we'll get to them. This is not just the United States. And the man who really is responsible for putting us in this situation, and I'll say it is him because China did it first, and that was really used as the proof that we had to do it here, i.e. shut down, regardless of the science, the faulty data, the models that exaggerated by a factor of 10 or 20, by complete lack of understanding of who actually died from what. People are not, this is not going to fly. And people don't care. They're like, okay, bull crap. I don't know exactly what happened, but I don't see all the things you're telling me. And I see nurses dancing on TikTok. But here is Anderson Cooper with Fauci and Sanjay Gupta and this question about opening up early. And you kind of hear how he waffles his way through it. But this is what the elites are thinking.
When you look at these two diverging realities, where on one hand, cases are going up, deaths are rising, and on the other hand, we're on the eve of the federal social distancing guidelines expiring and at least 31 states partially reopening in different ways. What is your message overall tonight to people who may be confused by these, sort of different realities?
Anderson, the message is to take a look at the clearly articulated guidelines for opening America again. And if you take a look at them, even though the so-called 30-day mitigation period has ended, the first component of opening America again is what we call a gateway, which means that you need to have to go down over a 14-day period, incremental or decremental decreases in the number of cases that you have before you can even think about going to phase one. And then you stay a certain time in phase one, and then there's another checkpoint before you go to phase two, and another checkpoint before you go to phase three.
Yeah, blah, 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 Fauci. Using this clip as a nice bridge, transition, and segue to a few clips I pulled from an outstanding interview that was released yesterday on YouTube. And it's with Robert Kennedy Jr. It's 2 hours, and the Keeper and I watched almost all of it last night. And thank you so much, noagendasocial.com producers, because I saw this. I'm like, this is going to get taken down, and I really want to be able to get clips from it tomorrow, but I won't have time. And I just said, please, someone save this. Well, it's everywhere in our universe. I got MP3s, I got BitChute, I got all kinds of versions of it, and that's how it should work. It was done by an outfit called Valuetainment. Have you ever heard of this YouTube channel?
Never.
And it's first of all, if you listen to that name, Valuetainment, who do you think could have come up with it?
Ron Bloom.
Exactly. And the guy's kind of a Ron Bloom character, and he does the interview, and it's no one knows what we're talking about, but that sets you up after I remind everybody what Mr. Dvorak himself said just on this show a few days ago.
China and the drug companies own the media.
And thank you, Dame Jenna, for putting that in an animated No Agenda episode. Let's listen to RFK Jr.
Anderson Cooper is sponsored by Pfizer. Aaron Burnett is sponsored by Pfizer. The NBC Nightly News is sponsored by Merck. And Roger Ailes told me, Roger Ailes, who I knew very well, and he was the founder of Fox News. I didn't agree with him politically, but we were friends. We spent a couple of months together in a tent. I was 18 years old in Africa. And I had this, good relationship with him. And he understood the issue of vaccine injury. He had a personal experience with vaccine injury, where a kid who was close to him was injured. And so he knew it was true. And I had helped make a film, a documentary about it a couple of years before he died, when he was still at the height of his powers. And I asked him, can I come on? I didn't want to play it on Fox, but I wanted to come on Fox and talk about it. And he said, I can't let you do that. And he said, in fact, if any of my hosts allowed you on their show, I'd have to fire them. And if I didn't, I would get a call from Rupert within 10 minutes. Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox, also owns one of the biggest vaccine companies in the world and has been one of the big promoters of it. But what Roger told me then, he said during non-election years, during certain parts of the year, 70% of our advertising revenue for evening news shows is coming from pharma. And he said typically there's about 22 ads on an evening news, and 17 of those are pharmaceutical ads. And that's why you see these aggressive promotions of vaccines all the time. You're constantly being told it's flu season, get your vaccine, because they're selling the products not just during the advertising section of the show, but they're selling the products during the entire show.
China and the drug companies own the media.
This interview, he's so sure of himself, and he could go down and be locked up forever for slander if if any of the things he said wasn't true. It was really, this is a fantastic interview.
Oh, where's the slander?
Oh, I'm getting to it. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Well, also listen to what he's saying about, that's just the media. But we'll get into certain individuals, and Fauci, of course, is squarely in his headlights.
They're bowing down and genuflecting to Anthony Fauci, who has a very well-documented and very checkered history of telling the truth, of not telling the truth, of abusing his power, and of resulting and of doing really sinister things like hiding the leukemia virus that is known to be in 3 of our large vaccines that we know causes cancer. And he's hidden that from the American people. He fired the number one scientist at NIH when her studies showed that those vaccines were contaminated. And he also... He was, Judy Mikovits, who worked for the agency, was on the team that identified the HIV vaccine, or HIV virus, and connected it to AIDS. And he kept that secret for 6 months, that he could get one of his cronies to make the publication. But that resulted in many, many people getting AIDS because the test was delayed by 6 months.
Do you think that's slanderous if he's basically accusing Fauci of helping people get AIDS? I'd say that's kind of borderline.
Those things.
Well, it is, but it is borderline.
Okay, well, hang in there.
Was delayed by 6 months. Those things are, are really black spots on Tony Fauci's record. And to turn our entire nation over to Tony Fauci with this unquestioned reverence and the constant, genuflecting to him, I think is something that is not healthy for our country. And it's really kind of sickening to watch the news division. These people are supposed to be reporters doing the exact same thing that they did during the Iraq War, which is that, what reporters are not supposed to take the word of government officials.
Yeah, well, we know that. No one will debate him on this. He went into great detail about...
You remember the swine flu era when we were doing the show, and there were those contaminated...
Yes.
Vaccines that actually had live swine flu in them.
Yes. Yeah.
And they were only caught by coincidence.
Sorry, I drowned you out. Sorry, what?
They were only caught by just a fluke.
Yeah.
They were. It wasn't. It's just some inspector, some random inspector, just caught the one batch as a fluke, which is a fluke, and stopped it. Who knows how much of this stuff actually did go out? Because there's a way you want to do a pandemic. Your best way is to have a vaccine for it that's loaded with the pandemic.
I didn't pull any clips of that part of the interview, but he goes into great detail about many different cases, the most important one being in the Philippines. And this was also a Fauci op, where they had tested I think it was the DDP? DPD?
Diphtheria vaccination.
Yes. And they had tested it on ferrets, and the ferrets got their antibodies. Everything was great. Then they tested it on in a small group. I think it was 20 kids, and 2 of those kids they had the antibodies from the vaccine, but when the actual virus came in, they got really sick. A lot of them got very sick, and it just accelerated, was much worse, and 2 of them died. And they shipped this off to the Philippines knowing that it happened, and 600 kids died. So sometimes, a lot of this testing and, we don't need to go into a whole broad vaccine conversation because we're safe vaxxers, and I think Kennedy is as well. But Fauci, with what he wields enormous power, and I thought the way Kennedy puts it here, it's very puts it into great context.
Fauci has a bias towards vaccines, and he owns the vaccine, so he has the patents. He literally owns vaccine patents.
Is it purely profit? Motivation is purely profit?
Well, no, I think it's power, and I think the same is true of the Gates. Both of them actually stand to make huge amounts of money, potentially billions and millions of dollars. But I don't believe, it's very hard to look into another man's brain, and I try not to do that. But just looking at them, I really believe that their motivation is more about power. And there is no more powerful position than being a health official, because you can literally dictate. I mean, at this point, Tony Fauci has powers that no American president has ever had. He's, telling people in California, you can't go to the beach. You can't go in the ocean. You can't go shop. Your kids can't go to school. You have to stay in your house. You're going to, 2 days ago, they were giving $1,000 tickets to people who were swimming in the ocean and surfing. No president's ever had that kind of power before.
That's a very good point. And that's exactly what it is. He's wielding enormous power. And I think Dr. Birx, the more I think about it, if you listen to Trump, he's always like, Dr. Fauci, Dr. this, and Deborah. She's his handler. That's what's going on there. I finally figured it out. It's like, oh, she's such a great, mature woman. I know, I fell for it first, too. With the scarves. She's managing him, handling him. So the Kennedys, Democrats, lifelong Democrats. What is up with the Democrat Party, who are running a lot of these types of operations that RFK Jr. is complaining about? Well, he has some thoughts, and they're ugly.
Let me say one other thing. My party, the Democratic Party, is the worst on this issue. And, it's very odd to me that they're mandating these vaccines that are untested. How can you mandate any medication for a human being? How can you tell somebody, we are going to force you to take a medication that you don't want to take? And, we signed a treaty, the Nuremberg Charter, after World War II, because the Nazis were doing that. They were testing vaccines on people and all these other medical treatments. And
I love how he goes to the Nazis.
We said that is a war crime. We don't do that to people. And we signed the Syracuse Protocols, the UN Charter of Human Rights, Helsinki Accords, the Nuremberg Charter, all of those say in them, you cannot give a medication to somebody against their will, even if the life of the nation is at stake. That's a quote.
And there's nothing that we really don't know, John. But he was really good in this. His voice affliction, I forget what it's called, some kind of horrible condition. Once he was on a roll, about 20 minutes into it, it almost disappeared. You can hear it. You can hear it. Well.
You can tell.
It's really odd. It's like it started to slip away. Last clip from this is the Silicon Valley Big Pharma connection. We know Silicon Valley wants to be your bank. In many cases, they already are, particularly through scraping systems like Plaid, now owned by Visa. They, of course, want to be your doctor as well.
Social media sites like Google are intertwined and entangled financially with the pharmaceutical industry. Google has a $750 million deal with Glaxo. It's working with all the pharmaceutical companies to harvest data, to get people's medical data through Alexis, through Siri, through your cell phones when they're left on and the microphone is still working, and through your buying habits and monitoring those things. So they are in a partnership. Google actually is part of a larger company called Alphabet, and there are other subsidiaries of that company that actually manufacture vaccines. So Google actively censors it when you do a Google search. It edits those search to make sure that you do not find the things that are the most common search subjects. It will direct you towards things. It will direct you away from anything that harms the pharmaceutical industry. It will direct you away from vitamins. It will direct you away from chiropractors. It will direct you away from functional health or integrative medicine or any kind of alternative to the allopathic, pharmaceutical paradigm.
Now, he went into great deal about the money, following the money. All of these health agencies, including the CDC, are funded mainly, or at least half, by the pharmaceutical companies. The patents go to the people who work inside the CDC. It's really an unbelievable crap show. And I guess we've kind of known about this for a long time. We followed the vaccination idea, and he really explains how this is the bonanza they've all been waiting for, and not just the vaccine, but also the side effects that a lot of kids develop from certain vaccines. They are then in the business. That's about a $50 billion business. But then they sell the inhalers and the Ritalin and all the other things you need to correct your kids after some of these odd side effects pop up. And that's a $500 billion business. So it behooves them to continue on this path of vaccines that, I guess kind of works. And so
what's the name of this thing? What was the name of this document?
Interview? The channel is called Valuetainment. It's in the show notes, of course.
Oh, does it have a title that people could look up?
Yes, it does. I'm sorry. Exclusive interview. Robert Kennedy Jr. destroys Big Pharma, Fauci, and pro-vaccine movement. It's in the show notes. nashownotes.com. So let's listen for just a couple minutes here to Silicon Valley. It was a very long, for Google, a long interview with the chief product officer of YouTube, Neil Mohan.
Is this from the same documentary?
No. No, the interview was a 2-hour interview, completely separate, nothing. So,
okay.
And I could have pulled a million clips, but no. Also, I would love to interview Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and get a dude named Ben over there and mic the man and give him some honey and lemon, because whatever's happening, when he's on a roll, and it may be also a little bit of OCD, when he is just talking and forgets where he is, it almost disappears. It's really interesting. So this Neil Mohan, the chief product officer, has a lot to say about, what they, of course, are obliged to take down this horrible misinformation. They are obviously, since they are in direct contact, as you just heard, with the pharmaceutical industry, the CDC, they know exactly what's right and what to kick off and who doesn't belong on YouTube.
The misinformation is changing, where we have to give all of our evaluators new guidance to enact underneath those policies. So,
when they say evaluators, that's basically freelance kids sitting at home all day and looking at searches and correcting the answers to authoritative information. It's a human process, and it's happening tens of thousands around the world.
4 weeks ago, would we have been talking about things like coronavirus and 5G conspiracies? No. Well, that happened. And so we need to update our enforcement guidelines around that and make sure that we remove those videos from our platform, because in my mind, if somebody believes that this disease is spread through 5G, that means that they're not going to go and actually seek the medical care that they need.
Oh, he's also a mind reader.
I love the logic.
He's a mind reader, apparently. In his mind, he reads the minds of others. And obviously, he's doing this based on empirical data and studies.
And through 5G, that means that they're not going to go and actually seek the medical care they need, or recognize it actually is a virus and they need to wash their hands. So that's a policy violation. We're going to strike that type of content. And that's happening rapidly. We have one of the other tools that we established that's come in handy here is what we call an intelligence desk. And this is a team of professionals who actually try to look kind of just over the horizon, if you will, in terms of where a conspiracy might be coming from, where misinformation might be coming from, so that we can do our best to sort of stay ahead of something that might be emerging before it becomes a challenge on our platform.
Oh, an intelligence desk, John. They've got experts who sit there and they know exactly what could or could not be there. I don't see how a 5G conspiracy theory is a huge problem. But he's very cavalier about the whole thing, honestly. His mask is just another example of his disdain for his actual customers.
This is the power of an open platform.
That's an ISO right there.
Wow, there's your ISO.
This is the power of an open platform. It allows for content that is fresh, timely, relevant to get up on our platform and in front of our users as quickly as possible. So that's kind of a foundational piece. But this is also where kind of raising up authoritative voices and making sure that we remove the misinformation come hand in hand. So let's take your mask example. You're right. Guidance on masks has changed. And this is what I mean by the actual underlying information is changing in a fundamental way really rapidly too. But this is the reason why I feel really strongly that when users are looking for this information, making sure that we're raising up authoritative voices is important, because the way that the question around masks would be covered by a credible sort of authoritative voice channel is that there would be context. There would be explanations behind why a particular mask decision was made or not. And so the user, the viewer of that content on our platform can make an informed decision for him or herself. And so, so as opposed to, it's somebody espousing their opinions about a mask, in their basement. This is coming from an authoritative channel, a news source, a medical professional. And if that's the case, we think there's going to be some context that's provided around the question of masks. And even if that guidance changes, it will be reflected in sort of how an authoritative voice or channel talks about it.
My God. Leave these Silicon Valley companies. I think people are also being driven away from it. They're just being driven. They can't find anything they want. It's boring when you find the same answers over and over again. And these guys are just making the Federation better. They're making BitChute more interesting. It's It's nuts.
Well, you know, they took the David Icke channel off of YouTube.
Yep, he got removed. That's right. And
I suspect that he's going to get removed from Twitter, too.
Kennedy Jr. went into a long bit about social media. It's like he can't get on any social. He's on Instagram, but every post is sent through lawyers so that he doesn't get the platform. He's very worried. He's like, I can't say anything because they'll take me down. So I can only allude to stuff, and that's why he's doing all these social media interviews. Meanwhile, there's some treatments to talk about. We don't have the vaccine just yet, and we heard now, of course, as we discussed on Thursday, the FDA was going to fast track approval, even though the numbers aren't in until the end of May, of remdesivir, the orphan drug by Gilead. Also known for its treatment or prophylactic works of Truvada, the HIV stopping drug, so they say, although they do disclaim it quite a bit, and there's a lot of side effects, and it's not necessarily 100% safe. But this is unlike the hydroxychloroquine, which was just poo-pooed, shit on, and pushed down everywhere, despite actual results.
Yeah. It may actually be what accounts for the fact that, and it's an anomaly they don't like to talk about in the media, there's very few cases of COVID-19 in Africa.
Yep.
Where it's supposed to run and kill everybody. It doesn't done anything. That's an hydroxychloroquine area.
Yep.
And India, where they actually make the stuff, has got very small numbers.
Well,
so they're using it there as a prophylactic. It's fairly obvious.
Yes. I just remembered something. I didn't get clips of it, but Kennedy Jr. says there's only about 1,000 people a year who die from the flu. He says the CDC is lying. They lie every single year, and Anderson Cooper and CNN, they get those numbers, and they say, 60,000 people, 70,000, could be a bad year, 90,000 people, go get your flu shot. And, I should have clipped that. I'll do it for Thursday. He says, no. It's the same problem. They count pneumonia deaths as influenza deaths. He said, of the 60, 70, 80, 90,000 people a year who die of pneumonia, it's really only about 1,000 people who die from actual influenza and then get pneumonia. Because the rest is all other kinds of respiratory issues. And therefore, the whole flu vaccine is a joke. It's just a money-making machine that cranks over and over and over again. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s words, not mine. So some media foolery here with Associated Press, who covered the Oval Office announcement of the FDA. We've got the CEO of Gilead, we got Fauci, we got Deb, we got Pence, everybody's on board. Let's announce it, how awesome this is. And pay attention at the very end.
I'm pleased to announce that Gilead now has an EUA from the FDA for remdesivir. And you know what that is, because that's been the hot thing also in the papers and in the media for the last little while. An important treatment for hospitalized coronavirus patients. And it's something, I spoke with Dr. Khan and Dr. Fauci. I spoke with Deborah about it, and it's really a very...
You hear that? Dr. Fauci, Dr. Khan, Deborah. Shit, man, handle it.
And it's something, I spoke with Dr. Khan and Dr. Fauci. I spoke with Deborah about it, and it's really a very promising situation. We've been doing work with the teams at the FDA, NIH, and Gilead for spearheading this public-private partnership to make this happen very quickly.
Really, the thanks go to the patients and the caregivers that participated in these clinical trials. I also want to say I'm privileged to work with a group of amazing scientists at Gilead that for decades have been working on antivirals, and we're poised to put remdesivir immediately into clinical trials when we saw the COVID-19 circulating. So I'm really proud of the colleagues back at Gilead. What I'd like to say is that, on behalf of Gilead, to the President's point, we feel a tremendous responsibility. We're humbled by this being an important first step for patients, for hospitalized patients. We want to make sure nothing gets in the way of these patients getting the medicine. So we made a decision to donate about 1.5 million vials of remdesivir. We'll be working with the government to determine how best to distribute that within the United States. We'll be working very closely to get that to patients, working with FEMA, working with other parts of the government to make sure that we get that to the patients in need as quickly as possible, because there are patients out there that can benefit from this medicine today that are hospitalized, and we don't want any time to waste for that. And we're also fully committed to continuing to expand the supply of this medicine. We started investing in this back in January as soon as we became aware of the coronavirus. This is a long time to manufacture. It used to be 12 months. It's now 6 months. Our scientists have brought that down. And so as we get into the second...
Our scientists brought that down? No, man, that's called your engineers. This production is not the new science all of a sudden.
Back in January, as soon as we became aware of the coronavirus, this is a long time to manufacture. It used to be 12 months. It's now 6 months. Our scientists have brought that down. And so as we get into the second half of this year, we're able to have many more supplies available to patients, and we're fully committed to
Listen to the end.
Mr. President, with you, your administration, to make sure that patients in need can get this important new medicine.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
I apologize. Like 30 seconds of extraneous audio at the beginning wasn't supposed to be there. So you heard it. He says, "Mr. President, this is great." Everyone applauds. Let's listen again.
Mr. President, with you, your administration, to make sure that patients in need can get this important new medicine.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, the Associated Press is lying to you. They screwed you. Here is the ending as it originally aired. I was watching it live.
Fully committed to working, Mr. President, with you, your administration, to make sure that patients in need can get this important new medicine.
Dan, I really appreciate it, but I also noticed the incredible job you've done with HIV, which I remember so well 15 years ago, 16 years ago.
It didn't end there. And there was certainly no applause after the CEO spoke, and certainly not the president saying, "That's fantastic."
So they phonied up the clip.
Yeah. I mean, that's really egregious. That's Associated Press. Yeah. Good job, boys. Be a little something extra in your check.
You know, you can just stop the clip. You don't have to add a phony ending to it.
Yeah, I think they had to.
I mean, we can do that. I'll do my clips on Thursday. My next clips will have a phony ending.
Yeah. So I have received a number of interesting bits of information about treatments. Man, there's some great stuff. We have the low-dose lung radiotherapy for COVID-19 pneumonia. And this was sent to me by Sir Atomic Rod Adams, who is an expert when it comes to radiation, certainly nuclear. He's qualified for about 30 years. He's been in the business. And he says, I can't get anyone, and he knows lots of people, because he's worked with the, what's the Nuclear Regulatory Agency? Here we have the NEA, National Nuclear.
I don't remember the acronym.
You know those guys. So he's trying to get anybody to pay attention to this because, apparently we used to do this back in the 50s. Low-dose lung radiotherapy, and this is from what publication is this? Elsevier. So it's an official publication, a real medical publication. Low-dose lung radiotherapy for COVID-19 pneumonia, the rationale for a cost-effective anti-inflammatory treatment. And the original paper will be in the show notes. You can take a look at it. But basically, with radiation less than that of an X-ray, they can zap it. And it was done back in the 50s, but once vaccines kind of came into style, guess what? Wasn't so interesting because zapping is only one-time cost. It's not something that, that can kind of continue on an ongoing basis, like, I don't know, year after year. But also there's people coming out of the woodwork with, wait a minute. Here is, and where's this PDF? I have another study of actually inserting a tube into an intubated patient, and then right at the top of their, right above the trachea, or below the trachea, I guess it would be, right by the lung airways, they spray an equivalent of hydrogen peroxide. Obviously, it's not hydrogen peroxide. And that can go into the lungs and kill the vaccine, kill the virus. These are existing actual existing treatments that have been published, and this one has been, I think, peer reviewed. That's drinking Lysol, drinking bleach, basically. I'm just
breathing it anyway.
Breathing. Well, you're probably out when that happens. And back as far as 2016, I think we had this clip.
Our guest today has been conducting a study that assesses the ability of UV light to treat flu symptoms. The UV light device she uses is from a Santa Barbara business called UV-LRX. So Stacy is in studio this morning with Dr. Wrightson. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Tony. Okay, I think that the biggest question here is how popular are you during flu season?
Well, very popular.
Yeah.
All of my friends call right away as soon as they get sick.
Okay, talk to us about this technology that you're testing.
So the technology has been around for over 100 years. UV light treating flus and viruses and bacteria, it won a Nobel Peace Prize 100 years ago. So the technology has been here for a long time, but what this company did is they took the delivery system and made it go directly into the body instead of outside of the body. So this system has been around for just over a year.
So can you show us a little bit about how it works with your demonstration here?
So this would be the patient arm, and the procedure lasts for about an hour, and it's really simple. It's just like getting a regular IV, like if you were going to rehydrate. So we insert a catheter, and we take the catheter out in order to put an adapter in, which is this here, that carries the light, and the light goes right directly down, almost directly into the vein, and you can see it right here. The light is on, treating the vein.
So there are other things to look at than the only life-saving vaccine.
Which won't work. They've already discussed this vaccine in advance. It's an RNA vaccine, which has never been proven to work on anything. It's just a crapshoot to make a lot of money.
Yes.
And the other thing is, what is this? And it keeps cropping up. What is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? Is it a profit-making organization? Is that the idea? I thought their idea was to get people to give them money to distribute in a philanthropic way. Philanthropy is not a thing you do to make money. It's just the opposite. So how is this all of a sudden, Gates is going to make billions? And they own one of the private prison companies. What is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation owning stock for?
This started with the Giving Pledge. When was it? 2012, I think. Warren Buffett came up with this concept of philanthropy, which is now, I think it's morphed into something called donor-advised funds. There was a lot of flack about Zuckerberg and other people doing this, where you put this big pile of billions of dollars into a pot, which you haven't given out yet, but it's already basically nonprofit money, and it's deductible. The taxes get taken care of right then and there. And because it's a donor-advised fund, the person who donated it into this holding nonprofit can then dole it out at will. But there's a couple of them in Austin as well. It's usually Silicon Valley guys who exited with a lot of money. They set one of these up, and they bring in nonprofit professionals, and they have a website with a lot of damn word salad about all the fabulous things they're going to do. But the machine runs profitably. It's doing investments, and it's looking at ROI, and it's just building and building. So it's really an accounting trick. So you got this billions of dollars over here that you owe taxes on. You put a portion of it over here, immediately take the tax benefit on your own schedule, however you want to, and you're pretty much having your money work for you. That's what's going on here.
Well, this pledge has always bothered me.
First of all,
not
rich
that I
enough
have
to take
the wealth to take part in this, but I admire the people who have refused to do it. To pledge half of their wealth for some philanthropic malarkey is always kind of bugged me. But the idea of it, I don't pledges in general, and that's why I always thought that Grover Norquist, whatever the guy's name was, the guy who did the tax pledge. If you're a Republican, you have to sign this pledge that you'll never raise taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as I was concerned, my congressman is supposed to be working for me. He's not working for some guy he made a pledge to. That's not even in my district. So I find these pledges, these sorts of things, to be sickening. Yeah. And this particular philanthropic pledge really bugs me. People want to give their money away. Why don't they just give their money away? And why do they have to make a big fuss about it? They don't have to brag about it. I mean, the whole idea of it with the people who do give their money away quietly, you have to admire them if you could ever find out about it. But these other people are just, again, virtue signaling.
They're not virtue signaling. I think they're in a very different, on a different frequency with each other. And they truly believe, I don't think they're sitting there stroking white pussies going,
No, I don't think so. But I not for a minute do I think that anyone who makes they make the announcement that they're doing the pledge is not virtue signaling to their other rich buddies.
Oh, of course. Yeah, in that regard. Absolutely. To their other buddies, for sure. But I think what Kennedy Jr. said there is correct. It's about control. They love it. The control that's being exerted right now is fantastic. I mean, wow. We've really lost, in many cases, lost control. That's why when people are out there with their guns peacefully surrounding a governor's mansion or a state capitol.
Yeah, and there are people in the Capitol were these wimps that were elected officials are in there whining about it and tweeting about it. Oh my God, I feel so threatened.
Yeah, but that's exactly the point. That's why I've said it many times. That's why we have the Second Amendment, and it's part of protecting the First. You're not going to kick us out. You're not going to send us away, and they won't. And that's why they got to have big words and come down hard. But we're going to kick your ass. There's one other very disturbing thing that's happening in this crisis, and that is the Report for America project. And this is a Google project where they are putting, I think it's 200 or 300 quote unquote journalists into newsrooms around the country, and basically they come with a check. They have a promo video. Let me see if I can.
The old economics of the news business simply no longer work.
More sharp cuts to the newspaper staff.
Newspapers are taking steps to trim costs amid the coronavirus outbreak.
So many of us are turning to local journalism in this important time.
Yeah. So that's the only spoken part in the piece, but I'll read some of the words that appear on screen right after it, so you get the idea. This is on the page. Meet the 2020-21 Core. Report for America today announced the selection of 225 journalists for its 220 reporting core. So I'm now reading from the video. The need for trustworthy, accurate, and local information can be a matter of life and death. I'm waiting for more words. A surge of reporters to meet this moment. God, they should have done a voiceover. Report for America, an initiative of groundbreaking truth. Oh my gosh, this is so good. We're nearly quadrupling the size of the program. Anyway, you get the idea. The reporting positions come at a time when local journalism is already reeling from years of newsroom cuts and unforeseen challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. They also mark a major expansion from the current core size of 59, of whom more than 90% are returning. So this is Google's propaganda forces.
Yeah, but you're not explaining it well.
Go ahead.
I don't know anything about it, but I have the questions that you could answer to explain it.
Maybe I can.
Now, what it sounds like is that they've isolated a bunch of journalists, and they're going to pay them, and they're going to give them to newspapers to work for the newspapers. Correct. Or whatever.
Correct.
And Google's going to be paying them the salary, so the newspapers don't have to have a burden.
Correct.
Well, the CIA's been doing this for like decades.
Who said there was a difference? It's just a different cover. CIA has been using cover of all kinds of organizations for many
but
years.
in the case of the CIA guys, you get the double dip.
Well, okay.
You're paid as a journalist, and you're paid by the CIA. In this case, you lose half your salary because only Google's paying you.
Someone's not thinking.
It's not as good a deal.
Okay. Gotcha. Yes, I'm in total agreement. Let's see. We have a boots on the ground report. In case you were interested about.
And by the way, it's no newspaper worth its salt. If I was running a newspaper, I was the editor in chief, and if they offered me one of these blokes, I'd say, no, I'm not taking some guy who's just a stooge for Google to come and write stories.
Well, I think the way the outreach works. Now we have to step back a little bit. Online websites, I think most of these local news sources, if they're still printing, it's really their website that's doing all the business for them. They have successfully handed over their entire sales structure to mainly Google. All their ads come through it, and the minute the advertising started to crumble amidst the COVID crisis, they started to close down, started going out of business. So they were incredibly worried. Google can't just make up any, or more than they already perhaps do, make up numbers and say, here's advertising, advertisers buy it. The advertisers just aren't there. So Google is the savior, you see. They're coming in to save the media. And I predict they'll do the same to the networks. They'll put people in the newsrooms there too. Eventually, when it becomes too unaffordable to propagandize everybody, they'll come in. They'll come in.
That's not going to happen because the pharma companies will keep those guys propped up, and the Chinese will pay more money.
Well, that's a good point. Producer Jay says, I wanted to provide some additional details to back up your comments on Thursday's show about grocery store employees not getting infected with COVID-19. I think this was your question, John. I am an IT project manager, a.k.a. cat herder, for a grocery chain that employs roughly 30,000 employees in 20-plus states. And one of the projects I manage is our company's workman's compensation and claim system. I guess you would know. During a call this week, we discussed the fact that we've only seen 52 cases so far. You can do the math. This is clearly being overblown. Keep up the good work. Cat herder of dudes named Ben J. So that gives us some real insight. I think someone who has
and there's some people data. Most people working in at that level retail grocery, they're in constant contact with the public.
Absolutely.
So they should have higher numbers, not lower numbers.
Yes.
So that doesn't make any sense.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm not understanding what you're saying.
They're in constant contact with the public. So if this thing is that deadly,
it should be much higher, of course.
It shouldn't be a low number like that. That doesn't make any sense.
Especially not
unless they're screwing with the numbers. It's like a bunch of crooked bookkeepers giving us all this stuff.
And that's why people are breaking out. That's why they're not going to stay at home anymore. There's no clear message. The data is all over the place. They switch graphs. It's a complete crap show. And people are done with it.
Go on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I have a clip that an underreported story, unlike everything else we've discussed about. This is and this is a funny story. I don't know why it's funny. It's funny to me. I don't know who it's condemning. It's we're dealing with the Bernie, the pro-Bernie operation called Democracy Now!, who was really. Later in the show, when we talk about Joe Biden and Tara Reid and different interviews that had been done, Democracy Now! Seems to be heading it. They're in the front. They're like leading the charge. But they did this story on the COVID-19 supplies, and this is and you have to read this. It says steening. but it means steering supplies clip. Play this and tell me what you think.
In Maryland, Republican Governor Larry Hogan said Thursday the National Guard's protecting 500,000 coronavirus tests imported from South Korea at an undisclosed location to prevent the federal government from seizing them. Governor Hogan told the Washington Post he diverted a Korean Air passenger jet to Baltimore Washington International Airport to evade the scrutiny of the federal government.
We landed it there with a large contingent of Maryland National Guard and Maryland State Police because this was an enormously valuable payload. It was like Fort Knox to us because it was going to save the lives of thousands of our citizens.
At least 6 states report the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has intercepted orders for needed medical supplies.
Yeah, it's like we're in a war, man.
So they bring out the National Guard.
Yeah, this is great.
And they surround the airport. This was obviously diverted from Dulles.
Right.
So as a plane, and because the other airport's nearby, I mean, the Baltimore airport's no further, really. So they take the plane and they do a dipsy-do with it and convince it to go to Baltimore.
By the way, that's the exact aeronautical term.
Yeah.
Dipsy-do.
So they get it to go to Baltimore. They surround it with National Guards to get the supplies off because they're afraid. They're afraid. This is a Republican, by the way. They're afraid that the feds are going to steal it, steal the load,
the whole load,
the whole load,
man.
Now this is a story that's a pretty funny story that you'd think the mainstream would pick up and make and have some fun with, but no.
Orange! They got other things to do.
It's unbelievable. So,
speaking of war, and I'll just mention this, an executive order, and the president's been doing some interesting stuff and writing some interesting orders and letters, and this came out on Friday. Do you recall, well, I'll read this first. Foreign adversaries are increasingly creating and exploiting vulnerabilities in the United States bulk power system. The bulk power system provides the electricity that supports our national defense, our vital emergency services, our critical infrastructure, our economy, and our way of life. Blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. The executive order prohibits certain future transactions involving bulk power system electric equipment where the Secretary of Energy, in coordination, will determine that the transaction involves bulk power systems, electric equipment designed, developed, manufactured, or supplied by persons owned by, controlled by, or subject to the jurisdiction or direction of a foreign adversary. Do you recall that we found out that a lot of the electrical infrastructure in California is crappy Chinese stuff?
I vaguely remember this.
Yeah, when we were looking at microgrids.
Oh, yeah,
the transformers, all these, they undercut the big guys like Siemens.
That's how Chinese, that's a Chinese sales technique.
So this is not reported by anybody. Trump basically said, screw you. Your stuff's no longer coming in here. Those are big ticket items. Electrical grid equipment.
Oh, yeah, it's always overpriced at high profit margins.
Well, it's actually not.
Well, probably low profit margins of the Chinese because it's best price.
Right, but it's also not necessarily superior quality. And that's what we discovered when we looked at the microgrids and the fires in California.
Quality is junk in many cases. Yeah.
So stuff is happening.
Problem with the bidding system.
Stuff is happening. Action being taken. All right, what else you got?
See if there's anything else with COVID.
Yeah, you have a COVID NYC report?
Oh, yeah. This is an update on what's going on in New York.
I'm interested.
Again, Democracy Now!
Here in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo Thursday announced plans to deploy thousands of workers to trace the contacts of everyone who's tested positive for the coronavirus. Cuomo said he hopes to assign 30 contact tracers for every 100,000 New Yorkers. Billionaire former presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg will oversee the program. Governor Cuomo also announced that beginning May 6th, the New York City subway system will be shut down between 1 and 5 a.m. each day to clean and disinfect subway cars and stations. restrictions. It's the first time in over a century of New York subway history that transit officials have canceled 24-hour service across all subway lines. The shutdown will exacerbate a crisis for thousands of unhoused residents of New York City who've used subway cars as shelters of last resort.
I like the unhoused. That was our suggestion, wasn't it?
No, that came out of some California talking points, we liked it.
I like it much better than experiencing homelessness.
Yeah, the unhoused.
Break. There is one important thing that'll be next on the radar for the show and everybody else, and that will be the tracking, tracing, and all the other stuff that is going to be done to make sure that we're all absolutely safe. I think we should go for it.
OTG, going OTG.
Sing along.
I'm an OTG kind of guy.
He is the OTG kind of guy.
OTG, going OTG. I'm an OTG kind of guy.
Yes. Off the grid is where you want to be these days. Still proudly sporting my Alcatel Flip 3 phone is just fine. The keeper is now considering making similar moves. And Australia is ahead of the game with the tracking and tracing. And here's Australia's Chief Medical Officer, Brendan Murphy.
The Prime Minister talked about the conditions precedent that National Cabinet challenged us to make sure we met before they were prepared to consider any relaxation of current measures. And I was pleased to be able to present to the National Cabinet what we call the Pandemic Health Intelligence Plan. In that plan was listed a table of those conditions precedent, and we're doing pretty well. The conditions, I'll just outline them in an overview way. The first one was around surveillance, and that we have a surveillance plan and we have sufficient surveillance mechanisms. Surveillance being the tracking and identification of outbreaks. Another one that we've met is what we call community adherence to public health measures, and we'll show you on the presentation that we're tracking that people are doing what we have said. They are reducing their mobility and their interactions as required by those original measures.
I like that conditions precedent for tracking. So he knows stuff. He knows what people are doing, and we know that there's many data sources out there where you can get that information. Pretty sure Google will give them anything. I was surprised, though, to hear the cavalier way in which he just kind of threw out the names and what they've given to Australia's Chief Medical Officer.
Next slide. This is a new measure. Basically, this is showing measures that people are adhering to distancing measures. So this is for New South Wales, showing when we introduced those measures. For Apple, it's given us data on directions for driving. You can see that directions...
Fuck you, Apple. That was the one thing I didn't think they would ever do. It was like the one company I never expected to give up location data is Apple. And here it is.
For Apple, it's given us data on directions for driving. You can see that directions for driving have dropped dramatically. Google has got data on time at transit stations. Again, that's dropped. But the converse is the Google data on times at residential. Google does track people. The COVID Safe app doesn't. But this is showing that how well people have adhered to our measures that we've put in place. And you can see some little spikes around the Easter time, but generally people are doing the right thing.
It's so disheartening.
So JC and Jesse and the baby, was his birthday.
Oh, yes, it is Theodorable's birthday
on the 5th, and Cinco de Mayo, your day.
Yes. Is he in?
You're always singing about it. I don't know why.
Is he on the list?
Oh, he better be.
No, he was not on the list.
We'll put him on the list. He's 3.
Of course, I know.
It's Eric. So
it's competition.
When they come over for dinners. We have these dinners on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. We'll have one on Tuesday this week, but JC will leave his phone at home.
Yeah, because he does.
So what are you leaving your phone at home for? Which is fine because normally he's on the phone all the time. But he says, I work in the company that's involved in security, and I know what's going on. I'm not going to be tracked over coming over here, and somebody's going to bring up this data someday and throw it in my face.
And basically, he wants to disassociate from you.
That could be.
That's what it sounds like. I don't want someone to find out I was over there one day. Buzzkill Central. Well, he's absolutely right. And we all know it. But now it's just going to be complete. Oh, it's so good. I'm so happy. Maybe this will even start to give people some questions.
I'm just saying, people at least once a month, tape your phone to the dog and just let the dog go floating around with it.
Yeah, that is a pretty good idea. One more clip on this tracking, tracing, identification was the idea of an immunity passport. Dr. Osterholm, he's the guy who was on Joe Rogan the same week I was, and was also propagating the incorrect models of huge amounts of horribleness that was going to happen. So I wasn't too impressed with him. He was on the CIDRA podcast, which I think is the Centers for, what is it? CIDRA. It's the Centers for Infectious Diseases and something else.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's an official outfit. And he talked about the immunity passport.
Well, one of the ideas that the WHO addressed in their statement was the idea of immunity passports. What do you make of that idea? Because that has been mentioned by several countries of issuing people immunity passports if they are producing antibodies.
This is actually one of those examples I was just referring to, where there are well-intended people who mean to help provide a better way of understanding who's protected, who's not, who might be infected, who might get infected by creating these immunity passports, but they have no sense at all of what they really mean or what we can say about this level of antibody and what it means in terms of protection. So this is far too early in the game to decide that we can do that. I also worry about companies I see right now that are talking about reopening when they are actually wanting to test their workers to see if they're antibody positive or not. And this would be a way that they can get reopened sooner. Not true. And so I think immunity passports need to be put on the shelf for some time yet to come.
Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy. So it's the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a think tank.
Yeah, it's a think tank. But a good news.
Which reminds me, so I'm reminded of a story where I used to carry around a card that was a little yellow card you'd carry with your passport. That was an immunity passport to show that you had a yellow fever vaccination.
I remember that. Yes.
And the way it worked with me was, and which just shows you how bogus this is anyway. So I was in Peru and headed to Brazil, and as I was at the gate checking in from at the Brazilian Airlines or whichever, I can't remember which carrier I was on, but they said you can't go to Brazil. I said, what? I got the visa. No. You don't have your yellow fever certificate. Right now they're blocking everyone from coming into the country who doesn't have a yellow fever shot. So I said, well, what can I do about that? And he said, well, we do have they have a facility at the airport where you get a yellow fever shot. So I went to this place, and it was a nice, clean clinic, and they show you the vials, they show you everything in advance, they show that it's new, and they open it up in the package, give you a shot. And then they get a certificate. So I got the certificate, I got the shot, and I got the passport. Boom, I'm on my way. I go to Brazil, and the guy stops me at the border. He says, let's see your yellow fever certificate. I give it to him. He says, this is from yesterday. He says, this shot doesn't take effect for 2 weeks.
That doesn't count.
And so I said, wow. So I said, well, that's, what am I supposed to do? He says, have you had the shot before? I said, yeah, I had it before. And I just didn't have a certificate, so I got another shot as a booster. And he says, okay, and lets me right in. I've never had a shot before. I just buffaloed my way through.
Well done, sir.
Which is the way you have to travel. Yes. If you travel a lot, you have to just kind of do it.
Well, we found the ultimate passport. No Agenda Nation style, Gitmo Nation style, go to roadid.com, ROADID.com. I think this is the one that'll look the best. If you look at, are you there?
No. I gotta.
How hard
just get the?
Can that be?
Well, I don't have my browser in the front because I was ready to do the spreadsheet out.
Gotcha. I just want you to see this. It'll be groovy.
ROAD.
Yeah, ROADID.com.
This is a nice little URL.
Yes. And look at them. This is the band I'm talking about. With little metal plate on it, you can engrave it with anything you want. And you can do a little logo, a little medical logo with a snake. And that should, what you should get on it, and I want someone to design this so we can put these orders through. It should have the logo, and then on top of it, COVID-19 antibodies, antibody confirmed, and then just some random number, like a serial number.
Yeah. Now, you're introducing the concept to the producers of fraud.
Yes, it's total fraud, obviously.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that.
It's a game, John. It's not fraud.
I do like this. This is a nice package. This looks could look official if you have the right logos.
Yes, thank you for protecting me and the show by disclaiming that. Yes, of course I'm talking about fraud. But unlike the fraud that's been perpetrated upon us, you mean?
Yeah. Unlike it.
Yes.
It's not the same fraud. It's a different fraud.
Yeah.
I like this. Find your ID.
Good,
this
right?
These guys, this is a good little company.
We just need to have the right design. Someone's got to put that together for us. Before we take our break, you can switch back to the spreadsheet. We'll get there. There's very sad news. Oh, kind of happy news and sad at the same time.
We actually had a death of a celebrity due to COVID-19, a real celebrity.
No.
Oh.
The influencers, the inspiration for a lot of this program, a lot of the words we use, the actual term in the morning, Weenie and the Butt, have returned to the show.
I heard they were busted for sexual harassment.
Nothing like drive time radio to remind me that I don't make enough to afford satellite radio.
Hey, you're listening to WQHG 97.1, and we are Devin and Lawrence, formerly known as Weenie and the Butt.
That's right, Devin. Those nicknames no longer fly ever since several women came forward with allegations of sexual misconduct against each of us.
Devin and Lawrence.
Sexual misconduct, 97.1 FM.
Rebranded to phase out Weenie and the Butt.
WQHG 97.1.
They got me too.
But there were still 6 months on their contract. Overlooking that for now.
FM.
Devin and Lawrence.
Court ordered overcorrection.
So we're now on our own, John.
You know, the funny thing is that there's enough. They know so much at that show in the writers' room that the guys who did Weenie in the Butt, if they were, let's say they existed in real life, and they do, but not as those two guys, they would have definitely by now been busted for sexual harassment.
No doubt about it.
Because of those types of guys.
And with that, I'd like to say in the morning to you, and thank you very much for your courage, the man who put the C in the COVID-19 bracelet, John C. Dvorak.
Matthew, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading from the spreadsheet.
What are you doing?
Well, in the morning to you, and also in the morning the ships at sea, boosting the graphene, the air subs, and the water, and the dames, and the nights out there.
Yes, and some of them will be trolling along in our troll room account. Ooh, 1919. Nice number. Hello, trolls. They're all hanging out at noagendastream.com, where they are. It's a chat. It's scrolling by. I see it, that corner of my eye. It's fantastic. Sometimes we get good lines, and often it's just irritating people trolling, which is what they do. We have a jingle for them.
Someone in that troll room is out of control.
Yep, that's perfect.
That was a nice clip.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, you just took off control room.
I didn't.
Someone in that troll room is out of control.
I think that may have been Fletcher.
Stop the hammering.
It's beautiful. We do also want to thank the artist for episode 1238. Now, we called this Sake Stock. Only if you had listened to the show would you understand that was a Joe Biden gaffe. Some people were like, what's up with sake stock? And I said, maybe you should listen to the show. The art was Mike Riley. You liked it immediately. It was Beavis and Butthead, except Beavis has a mask, and Butthead is the angry, fat Costco chick, as you described her on the previous show. So I thought it was good. There were other pieces. There was a lot of stuff that was good. But you just can't deny it, and everybody loved it, and it worked really well. And Mike's a pro, and this is all original work. It is fantastic, the kind of work he does. I love the font, the Curry and Dvorak. It's just a good piece.
Yeah, he's a natural.
We have many. Go ahead.
And there were some other ones that you liked. You liked something else, and there was a lot. I thought there was about 6 pieces that were all usable. But somebody's going to do original, straight up original in every way, and it relates to the show. And they got the fat Costco chick shaking her fist.
Kirkland.
I mean, you can't, with the Costco thing.
Yeah, we had a couple of bracelets. We had people trying to pre-guess what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, which is always risky.
Very risky. Also, I don't think we need to do any more yellow stars for COVID-19. The joke's kind of been done.
Yeah, there's something else that's going on too. I had to go back and look at the page that I was noticing it's just not working.
I'm looking now. I don't know if there's. No, maybe not. Anyway, what is fantastic, and I'm always blown away by, is the amount of art that comes in. The artists, we're all competing in real time while we're doing the show live. They're figuring out, what can I throw together? Some within the last 10 minutes of the show. It's really unbelievable. And after we're done, we go over the credits. We put the credits in. Art is next on the list, so people are really hustling. And I appreciate that, Mike Riley, and all of the artists who upload their work to noagendaartgenerator.com. We use it in the newsletters. We use it, of course, for the album art. We're one of the few, if not the only show, that consistently has changing artwork every single episode. Also, noagendashop.com. You can now get it on your COVID bandanas, and they got cool stuff over there.
The one you like was Freedom in Bloom and Truth in Bloom.
Well, I thought they were okay. Well, I didn't.
One was by Martin Ray, and the other one, they're both by Mountain Ray.
Yeah, I thought that Mountain J. I thought they were nice pieces. That's really what it was. But no, we're good. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. Thank you very much, Mike Riley. No stranger to the show. This is part of our value for value system, which is very vast. But it's just like producers sitting up at 2 a.m. ripping audio for me from Robert Kennedy Jr. We have artists who do this. We have producers do an incredible amount of work. And I don't think any other show could do what we do affordably in a regular type of setting. I mean, we regularly play, which means we've produced over 50 clips a show.
And we discuss things like, for example, I did use the term, and I feel so bad about it, a fat Costco chick.
Yes.
And we discussed the fact that if we actually worked for a corporate outlet, I'd have been fired.
What's interesting is you claim that you feel bad about it. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I don't believe that for a second, quite honestly.
I could be dishonest.
You said it and you meant it, and that's okay. I'm not condemning you for it. It's horrible when you get yelled at for not standing on your social distance star.
Get back there.
Exactly.
You see a lot of people shouting in these situations. It's amusing at best. Anyway, let's get to the donations, starting with Matthew McMahon in El Segundo, California, 58923. Not quite sure what the meaning of that is, but he says, this message is from Dr. Disorder of DisorderDesigns.com. That's Dr. Disorder of Disorder Designs, oneword.com. There's your donation for the No Agenda face mask sales.
Oh.
We'd like to thank the No Agenda Nation. Just go to disorderdesigns.com.
Well, so I ordered them, but they haven't shipped yet.
I would like to thank the No Agenda. Well, you got the money. The No Agenda Nation for their support of the show and for Disordered Designs. And thank you for being patient. That'd be you. Kindred and positive with your emails. In other words, they're backed up.
Hey, mofo,
thank you for being patient. We'd like to update the nation that orders placed after Easter will ship this week.
Okay.
As a bonus update, we put together a quick video of the No Agenda face mask production at the factory this week. Can you please share this video? YouTube / well, you can put in the show notes. No one's going to write this down, but no, I'm not going to be able to read it. Anyway, it's probably look it up in the search engine in the show notes. I've also posted on my
no problem.
Dr. Disorder No Agenda social feed. Thank you again for your hard work. Our amygdala would be lost without you. Jobs karma for all the seamstresses in America.
Yes, indeed. They're the ones that are doing a lot of that work.
Sewing.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs. You've got karma.
Joseph Finley comes in $333.33 with a complaint.
Uh-oh.
You guys failed to give me life and future job-seeking karma, so now I'm asking again. Currently at a crossroads. Don't think I want to go back into dudes named Ben work, but I'm no good at anything else.
Uh-oh.
House remodeling sucks because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Or it says what the hell I'm going. Ending this note with a request to toss my brilliant daughter, Brooke. To toss. It's his usages are weird.
Well, you want to toss her onto the list.
Oh, he's going to toss her on the birthday list.
Yeah, going to toss her onto the
May
list.
May 3rd, she's 19. No jingles, no karma. Well, he's asking for jobs karma, so that doesn't make any sense. Walkman, a.k.a. Finley, J. Finley. Okay.
Well, he means well. No problem.
Jobs,
I like the guy.
Jobs,
I know
jobs,
you do.
and jobs. Let's vote for jobs. You've got karma.
Matthew Litke in Tinley Park, Illinois, 33333. He needs his China is asshole, 2 to the head, donating for my 33rd birthday on May 5th. That's awkward. Thanks. He's also a birthday boy on the 5th.
That's right.
Thanks for keeping me sane while I do essential work trucks going. I do essential work trucks going, I guess. Started listening when I was only when there's only one show a week and haven't missed one since. Good for you.
Nice.
These is jingles.
That's it. Those two. And
I guess we give him a karma too.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
You've got karma.
Will Stagno's up next. He becomes an associate executive producer, contributing $256.19 from Kirkland, Washington, home of Costco.
That's right. Home of the fat Costco checkout chicks.
Dearest No Agenda Show. Guys, been too long since my last donation. I was a producer who discovered that Trump jobs karma was dangerous. I met him up in Seattle.
That's the guy, yeah.
I did a face-to-face. I've since learned that it may just have been a very long incubation period as I got infected with a fantastic job months after I received the karma. Still recommend that other producers handle that karma with care. Here's your share of my Trump bucks.
Oh.
You earned, that'll help. You've earned it. Keep up the good work. The BPITU is a guiding light through this fog of viral load and media bullcrap. To all No Agenda listeners, the No Agenda Show is your PPE against brain pathogens. You get what you pay for. Thanks again. Stay safe, stay healthy, and other disingenuous bullshit. He says jargon.
It's all right. Little editorializing. Nothing wrong with that.
Will.
Okay. Thank you, Will.
Onward to Adrian Danemeyer, who sent a check in, actually. bank check for $250, and those you can't put notes with or anything. You can't put attachments. So he did send an email.
Good.
Which I will find and read. Where are you? There it is. Payment $250 should arise by check to the post office box from Adrian in Medford, Massachusetts. Please de-douche me.
You've been de-douched.
I've been listening since the 600s and have got a lot of value in return, but this is a start. Your show has become an irreplaceable source of sanity for me.
Whoa.
Thank you for everything you and the whole NA community do. And by the way, John in Durham is a douchebag.
Douchebag. Okay, I guess so.
No jingles, just a straight up karma for everybody.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
You've got karma.
Straight up it is.
Straight up. Sir Craig, the Viscount of Northeast Georgia, comes in from Atlanta, 23457. Not sure why. Viscount from Georgia here. Malady, medley, jingles, swine flu, minute, Ebola, Hillary, screech, karma. Every ad starts, quote, in these uncertain times. That is a fitting. Well, by the way, that medley of clips of the uncertain times, I'd like to hear it again. You don't, but then maybe not for this show, but next show for sure. This is a fitting way to preface the heaping praise on the best podcast in the universe. You two routinely hit it out of the park, even though there are no attentive fans in the M5M bleachers. It still counts. It still counts as a home run to woke, no agenda producers. Your critical thinking and scrutiny of the M5M and political shenanigans builds the anticipation of the election season to a fever pitch. Keep up the frenzied pace. No rest for the weary. I'm laughing because I have a bird outside.
Oh, what's the bird doing?
The bird. We've had these mockingbirds, and it's been for the last 5 years. As I made some recordings of, but the mockingbirds seem to have disappeared because there's a couple of these doves, and all they do, they have the most uninteresting stuff. It's just hoo 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 hoo. And it sounds like they're mocking me as I'm reading this note. Anyway, no rest for the weary. You're the best, Sir Craig. 73s, KB1YYE.
Yes, 73s to you. I'm just trying to think, which Hillary cackle do we want?
Oh, any of them. They're all gold.
Yeah, but well, that's easy for you. Easy for you to say.
I could play the one from the little machine here.
I got one. Let me try this.
It's the no agenda swine flu minute. Ebola.
You've got karma.
You picked the best one.
Thank you. Thank you. I knew there was a reason I showed up this morning.
Sir Jim Watts in Whistler, BC. Beautiful part of the world.
Wait,
20676.
You missed Sean Brown.
Sean Brown, 23232 in Ruskin, Florida. A donation from Sean Brown from Ruskin was an obvious sign that it was time to donate again. What? Oh, okay. Huge thanks to both of you for keeping my sanity over the last several years. Keeping your sanity. Okay, jobs karma for everybody.
Oh, jobs karma. Oh, that's good.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
So Jim Watts in Whistler, a beautiful part of the world.
Yes, I've been.
20676.
I skied it.
You know, supposedly one of the best drives, everyone says.
You go up from Calgary, you mean? Drive up there?
I think you start in, I don't know if it's Edmonton or Calgary.
I think I started in Calgary.
Okay, there's a ride from Calgary to Vancouver, BC, and it takes you right through apparently the most beautiful Rocky Mountain scenes you'll ever see anywhere. And everybody in Canada knows about this drive, and it's like a big deal.
I think the drive's 4 hours or something, if I recall.
It's a long drive.
Yeah, it was great. And then I went to
that drive.
Yeah, and then after I skied at Whistler, it was all for MTV back in the day. I went to the Calgary Stampede.
The Stampede.
That was great. The Calgary Stampede, man. If you ever have a chance to go, well worth it.
Greetings from a tourist ghost town. There's no stampede going on now.
Yeah.
Even with the resident ghosts left due to the Rona. This is my annual Cinco de Mayo compliant donation. Please add me to the May 5th birthday list. Another one.
Yep.
And happy birthday to Theodorable. This donation brings me to Baron status in U.S. dollars. I think believe he's on the list.
Yes, he is.
Sadly, close to Viscount in Scandinavian currency. These subscriptions add up, folks.
They do.
Attention, Peerage Committee. I hereby request Whistler and the Garibaldi Park metropolitan area as my protectorate. Granted. I do note that Sir Alan Bowes was granted the entire 945,000 square kilometers of British Columbia as his protectorate. Seems a bit over the top. So I shall ask the Peerage Committee to carve out a few square acres for. I don't think the other baron will have a problem with this. Otherwise, and these until you become a duke,
that's when we get issues.
You get your baronies are going to be fluid.
Good to go.
Otherwise, I shall be forced to seize Ontario. What? Seize Ontario or Australia? No, we don't want that.
No.
Luge season is long over, so I request startup jobs come with a goat twist.
Sir Jim Watts, definitely. You're on the list, and we will see you at the round table for your title upgrade with your goat twist karma.
You've got karma.
Rich Ballard in Elberg, Vermont. 20101. Not that many Vermonters listen to the show. There's not that many Vermonters. This is a liberal birthday call out to my first granddaughter, Brielle, who is actually being born as I write this and should arrive in time for the show tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Welcome to this crazy world, Brielle. Thanks to No Agenda for keeping us sane in insane times. From Sir Richard, no jingles, just karma for the safe delivery.
Yes, welcome, citizen, to Gitmo Nation.
You've got karma.
Always nice to see new human resources.
Yeah, and that's our list of executive and associate executive producers for show 1239. I want to thank each and every one of them for making this show possible.
And these producers do very important work for us. That's why we like to highlight them as the executive producers and associate executive producers. Anything $200 and above gets you on the list, but it also gets you the credit. And the credit is real. It's just like any Hollywood production credit. You can say, I was the executive producer of episode 1239 of the No Agenda Show, best podcast in the universe, according to the Mueller report. Put that on your LinkedIn. It gets people jobs. I know it sounds crazy, but it gets people jobs. It's real. And we appreciate this work that these producers are doing and invite anyone to have a look at becoming an executive producer or associate executive producer of your podcast, The No Agenda Show, for Thursday. If you do, go to
Dvorak.org/NA.
And by now, we all know we are truly the PPE of COVID-19.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Shut up, slave.
Shut up, slave.
You know, now that the presidential briefings have kind of slowed down, either he's not answering questions or he's doing a little bit in the Oval Office, and there's really nothing to report. I mean, there's no more graphs. You know, it's just the same questions about, we went from ventilators to masks. Now it's about testing. And that's just kind of dying down. I think everyone's weary of it. So I spent some of my Rona time relearning Vim and Mutt, the command line applications. And I've realized that it's so much faster when you remove like Windows and interface and user interface. If your hands don't leave the keyboard and you're not using the mouse, why anyone wants a mouse, I have no idea. It's no evidence.
No.
And it's really true. I am so much faster, can process so much more information, particularly with the customization. I'm just going on a quick little Linux rant. And I've realized that email, and this is really the reason why I run my own server, is the ultimate platform to build data input applications. And I've got stuff tricked out, man. I can send an email with a keyword. It adds it to a file of stuff for the show or for a different project, producer notes, and then it all wraps up and pops in front of me on show day. I'm so proud of myself.
Nerd.
Yeah. But it's really time well spent. I encourage everybody to look in to just these. If you want to do anything fast, look into these two applications.
So I would like to discuss Joe Biden and Tara Reid. And he finally came out and did an interview, and he took a huge risk and went on Morning Joe.
Yes, he did.
And people loved that. They thought Mika was actually, she did a standalone with him, and she had a stern look on her face, and she kept asking him the same questions over and over. And so when I started clipping these things, I got 3 clips from this. But I could have gotten a lot more because some of it's kind of amusing. But it was really, it looked like it looked serious. It looked like she was going after him. She kept pounding him about pretty much opening up the archives at the University of Delaware, which everyone's doing. But then in retrospect, Crystal Ball, of all people, came on with a critique that really put this interview in its place. But before we do that, let's listen to Mika and Joe and how this went. Let's go with part 1.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for coming on the show this morning. We have a lot we want to ask you this morning. Okay. Joe and Willie will join in just a moment for questions on how you would handle this pandemic, the campaign, and other news of the day. But at the start, it's just going to be you and me. And I want to get right to the allegation made against you by Tara Reid.
If I could just interrupt for a second. They negotiated a good deal on that. And that's why as she said it, it's just you and me. And I think that was very smart of the Biden camp and campaign, because the minute you throw anything extra in there, you can never get through. And I think Joe would have been confused. So I think that was a good setup. Also, it was at 8:00 hour. It wasn't at 6 a.m. So it was friendly, set up well.
Get right to the allegation made against you by Tara Reid. So the former Senate aide accuses you of sexual assault. And please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Do you remember her? Do you remember any types of complaints that she might have made?
I don't remember any type of complaint she may have made. It was 27 years ago, and I don't remember, nor does anyone else that I'm aware of. And the fact is that I don't remember. I don't remember any complaint ever having been made.
Have you, or your campaign, have you reached out to her?
No, I have not reached out to her. It's 27 years ago. This never happened. And when she first made the claim, we made it clear that it never happened. And that's as simple as that.
A couple of things. One, she asked him specifically, do you remember her? Mm-hmm. And he does not answer that question. He just glosses over and goes on to something else. And the talking points are apparently this 27 years thing. He says that over and over again through the whole thing. And you can, again, I only took these 3 short clips because it gets repetitive. Mm-hmm. She keeps hounding him about the same things. She quotes him about what he said about the Judge Kavanaugh hearings, which is what everyone's comparing this to, except she's leaving out the important part of it, which is the verifying the witnesses that have backed her up. She leaves that out completely.
Hold on. It's not witnesses. It's corroboration. Yes,
at the time period, which is important as opposed to this woman who came out against Kavanaugh. She had nothing. So let's go to clip 2.
In the past 30 minutes or so, you released a statement on Medium, and among other things, you write this: there's only one place a complaint of this kind could be: the National Archives. I am requesting that the Secretary of State of the Senate ask the archives to identify any record of the complaint she alleges she filed. If there was any such complaint, the record will be there. Are you preparing us for a complaint that might be revealed in some way? Are you confident there is nothing?
I'm confident there's nothing. No one ever brought it to the attention of me 27 years ago. This is any assertion at all. No one that I'm aware of in my campaign at, my Senate office at the time is aware of any such request and or any such complaint. And so I'm not worried about it at all. If there is a complaint, that's where it would be. That's where it would be filed. And if it's there, put it out. But I've never seen it. No one has that I'm aware of.
The New York Times has investigated this exhaustively. They didn't find any of your former staff members were able to corroborate the details of this allegation. She did file a police report a few weeks ago with the D.C. police. But since you want to set the record straight, why limit this only to Tara Reid? Why not release any complaints that had been made against you during your Senate career?
I'm prepared to do that. The best of my knowledge, there's been no complaints made against me in terms of my Senate career, in terms of my office and anything that's been run. Look, this is an open book. There's nothing for me to hide. Nothing at all.
You know what's been very interesting in this ordeal, which, and I knew you would do this today, and I appreciate it. Joe is, after all, your beat. With Kavanaugh, and so this is the comparison that's made continuously, and absolutely, Christine Blasey Ford had no one corroborating, in fact, actually saying, no, I don't remember any of that, so denying what she asked them to testify to. But the term at the time was believe all women.
Yes.
And that has changed to all women should be heard. And it sounds kind of the same way, the same thing. You're like, yeah. But no, it's not the same. It's and that is egregious. It's gone from believe all women to all women should be heard.
Well, these are all taught. This is all came out in a memo, and Biden was obviously hounded to make sure to put the 27 years ago thing in as much as possible.
Hold on. What do you mean memo? What are you talking about?
Well, there's a number of pieces of paper floating around that tell everybody to say this. Everyone must be heard. I've heard, if I just sat around and took clips of all these pundits saying all women must be heard. I mean, everybody. Yep. It's like I didn't even emphasize it too much with these clips because it's out of control.
It's rampant. Yeah.
And in fact, I didn't go into that part of it with this Biden thing because I think it may be something of a smokescreen. Oh, well, Joe said this about Blasey Ford, and now he's saying something different about this accuser.
Well, this is more the media that I'm talking about. Forget what Biden says. The media is doing this.
No, the media, I think it's something of a distraction to the fact that this happened. But you know what I'm saying? So they're making a point of this. Well, you've changed your way you're looking at things. You changed your way. Wait a minute. There was a rape basically that took place here, and we're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about this change in attitude by the Democrats that they would believe all women to everyone must be heard.
I got you. So just move away.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, bro. I hear you.
So I didn't really, and Mika just hounded him about that, and I have none of those clips because I'm not interested. And so I'll just go to the last one, which is this little clip here.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously when she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have a right to be heard.
I wanted to just, because now some information has changed, which I think will lead into your clips. And again, Associated Press, who are really on a tear, certainly on today's show, they changed the headline of their story, and the story is that Tara Reid now apparently has said, well, I did file a complaint, but I only filed a complaint about Joe Biden complimenting me on my legs, and I didn't put the sexual assault into that. So when that news broke, Associated Press headline, Tara Reid says a Senate report she filed against Joe Biden didn't refer to sexual harassment or assault. Fascinating. What she said there, where he says, hey, I really like your legs, is literally today's definition of sexual harassment.
It is. Exactly.
So they changed it.
Yeah, they're chicken shit over there.
Let me read to the change. Reid, I didn't use sexual harassment in Biden complaint. So they got this quote, and then they actually put at the bottom that the headline of this story was changed for clarity and to incorporate a direct quote from Reid. Like, come on. I mean, there's untrustworthy. So I guess, duh. Hello, Captain Obvious. What am I thinking? Sorry.
So, of all people, Crystal Ball, who is on this, we've never thought much of her, and she sounds like a dingbat when she presents.
Well, she went to Reason, or where'd she go? She's actually doing pretty good, I think.
The Hill.
Oh, she's at the Hill?
She's at the Hill doing a video with this other guy, and she's kind of a Bernie bro, and he's kind of a libertarian Republican.
Yeah, it's not hard to watch. I mean, it's okay.
No, it's not hard to watch, and it's a little long. Yeah. They yak too much. I mean, we yak a lot, the two of us, but we change the subject a lot.
Yeah, we bring in
they
the
stay
weenie
on
in the butt.
Topic for a long time.
We bring in weenie in the butt. I mean, it's like, hello.
So, and this is a long clip, but I think it's a valid clip to listen to.
Holy crap, this is a long clip.
It's a long clip, but this is her explaining why. And when I saw this, I realized that I was kind of taken in by the Mika thing. And I watched other people who were taken in by it, thinking, oh, she did a pretty good job. She went after him. But no, she didn't go after him in the least. And Crystal Ball caught it right away.
Are we allowed to stop and comment, or do we?
Yeah, please do, because it's going to be boring.
How does that square with what you're saying now? And she was very persistent on the records piece. The part that was completely absent is if you listen to that interview, you would think that Tara has nothing backing her up.
Exactly.
That she has no.
That it all rests on the record.
That it all not the case. Exactly. Yeah. That it all hinges on that one complaint, which, by the way, they also don't make clear in the interview is just about harassment, according to Tara, not about the assault, so we should be clear about that as well. But there's no mention of the fact, you guys know the list, that her brother confirmed, her friend confirmed, she said she told her mom, who called into Larry King Live. Mm-hmm. That tape emerges. Then two additional corroborating witnesses come forward. A neighbor that spoke with Rich McHugh, he said, look, I know this happened because Tara told me about it about 2 years after it had occurred. And a coworker who didn't corroborate the sexual assault part, but confirmed that Tara talked to her about facing harassment at her workplace in D.C., and she had been reassured that that would not reoccur in this office. There was also an intern that the New York Times spoke with who confirmed the piece of the story that Tara says she was reassigned. Right, she had been managing the intern. She was suddenly reassigned after she complained about sexual harassment. This intern says she does recall Tara being reassigned suddenly, and she doesn't know why. So that's, to me, the biggest sort of missed opportunity here is, again, if you're a viewer who hasn't really tuned into the story, which a lot of people haven't because the media hasn't really focused on it, you would not know that Tara has all this weight of evidence on her side. And that's why the Kavanaugh standard is so problematic for Biden and everybody else who's taking his side, because Christine Blasey Ford didn't have nearly that amount of corroboration, and most women who come forward won't have that amount of corroboration.
And that's actually what bothers me. And this is where I don't know whether to put on my conspiratorial hat or not, which is, look, this is likely the only long length of time he will ever answer questions about this allegation. I'm reasonably certain of that. This is also, frankly, the only real hearing on this that MSNBC viewers are likely to ever get. That lightning questioning, and then later it will be covered in their primetime shows, and they'll play clips from it. And if you think about the totality of that, a large segment of MSNBC viewers and Democratic voters will never hear about Rich McHugh's corroborating reporting. Will never hear about the Larry King phone call. Remember, these people exist. Everybody loves to talk about this vis-a-vis Fox. right? Everyone's like, oh, well, on Fox News, they're living in this world.
Yeah.
Well, what about the MSNBC bubble?
Oh, yeah.
Has the corroboration been told to Biden's face, and has he had to respond? And again, Trump has had to do this for every single one of his sexual assault allegations. I mean, at most...
it's kind of interesting as I'm just listening to this. I mean, it's just off the wall, and it doesn't make sense, but it's almost as if certainly the timing of everything. Someone in the Democrat Party said, do we have a Democrat somewhere who can do a little mission for us? Yeah, we got that girl, Tara Reid. She's a Democrat. We all know. This is not a secret. It worked so well for Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a thought.
Everybody loves to talk about this vis-a-vis Fox, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, on Fox News, they're living in this world.
Yeah.
Well, what about the MSNBC bubble?
Oh, yeah.
Has the corroboration been told to Biden's face, and has he had to respond? And again, Trump has had to do this for every single one of his sexual assault allegations. I mean, at most, Justice Kavanaugh had to do the very same thing, literally, line by line, on all these other things. How come Joe Biden does not have to answer for that Larry King phone call and others, and why he believed Dr. Ford then and doesn't believe Tara Reid? He says the facts then were on Dr. Ford's side and the facts are not here. Well, that's the thing. If these MSNBC viewers only believe that the facts are the records, look, my friend Joe Simonson, he called the Senate historian. He said it's almost impossible that these things are still around.
And one other, and so I think they're very smart and absolutely to say, oh, this really just detracts all the attention away from what actually happened or didn't happen. But the comparison to Trump is, I'm sorry, it's way off base. He was not. I agree. He was not accused of sexually harassing someone. He was not accused of raping someone. He was, well, at least not in the context of the election. There was no formal charges, no Mika interviews with anyone like that. No, we had Stormy Daniels, and we had a grab him by the pussy comment. Very different. If I may just take a moment and say, give you my thoughts on this, or do you have more data we need to listen to?
I have stuff you should listen to.
Okay.
I do want to play a Biden ISO. It's Biden
This may be the one, ladies and gentlemen.
My office in Indiana needs been run.
What?
My office in Indiana needs been run.
My office in
Indiana needs been run.
My office internet needs be run?
I have no idea what he's saying.
My office in Indiana needs been run.
Wow.
He's like Erwin Corey. There's a few people who get that. Well, let's go to this. I want to go and listen to a little bit of Linda, one of the cooperating witnesses, and also Tara Reid was interviewed by Democracy Now! Some time ago, and she gives her whole story. It's actually kind of chilling to listen to her. We've heard some of it, but this is one of the best presentations. But let's listen to this clip is Rich McHugh on Biden, and this is probably has to be played to get it out of the way. This is the guy who wrote the article.
He wrote what?
He's the guy who wrote the article that busted all the stuff out.
Rich McHugh's recent investigation confirmed Tara Reid's accounts with two people who knew her in the 1990s and were joined by one of those women, Linda Lacasse, a former neighbor of Tara Reid, who's corroborated Reid's account. And she will be talking about that for the first time in a broadcast interview. Rich McHugh brought out the interview with her in print in Business Insider. Rich, let's begin with you. Talk about this story. Joe Biden, as we speak, is saying it's not true.
Well, I think that's not unexpected, for someone in his position. What I'll say is that when I started reporting on this, I go at every story like this with extreme skepticism. I never actually wanted to report on this story. It was one of the survivors in the Weinstein, story that I've worked with, Sarah and Massey, came to me and said, "Look, can you take a look at this?" And I said, "Well, look, we might not like what we find, but if everybody's okay with that, I'll go down this road." And so, the more that I've gone down the road reporting it, the more corroborating voices I've found. And when
who does he work for?
Business Insider.
The more corroborating voices I've found, and when when she filed a police report, and then when I found Linda, Linda is someone that struck me as entirely credible. She's like, "Look, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm voting for Biden regardless, and this happened. So I need to, in good faith, come forward and say that. So, will we ever know that there's 100% truth that this happened or did not happen? I don't think so. But, this needs to be continued to be reported out. I know this morning, Joe Biden said he's calling on the National Archives to release.
Did you say, wait a minute, what did you say about lifelong Democrat? Entirely
Linda, one of the corroborate. All of these people are Democrats. This guy's a Democrat. This is the most reluctant I've ever seen. All these reporters, they're just nobody wants to do this story.
But what I liked is lifelong Democrats, so entirely credible. It's like, okay.
Well, it was. I don't think. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think what he meant was it's not as though she has a political grudge.
Yeah, I got you.
Morning. Joe Biden said he's calling on the National Archives to release his papers. So we spoke to the National Archives and said, look, there is some question about Tara Reade filing a complaint outside of this office, outside of the Biden office. If you had that, would that live there? And they told us that no, they have no records from I believe it's called the Fair Employment Practices Office. And so that leads us to believe that there might be some of those papers within the University of Delaware and his senatorial papers, which is why we're calling on them to open them.
So Biden's full of crap.
Yeah.
Now I can go. I got
clip.
two separate ways that I wanted to get this done with.
Okay.
One, we can go and listen to Linda for a little bit. Or we can jump Linda. Linda's interesting. I can just summarize what she has to say. She says that Tara was crying, and she had all these because they were discussing something that had to do with violence, and she brought the story up.
Is that one of those three clips you have?
Well, if you want to play the Linda clips, they're kind of interesting because she's really a hardcore Democrat, and she's kind of torn about this whole thing. But
I wouldn't mind hearing it. No.
Okay, Linda on Democracy Now! Clip 1.
Linda, this is your first time speaking on television about this.
And last.
Can you tell us what happened in the mid-1990s? How did you know Tara? And then tell us what she told you and why you're coming forward today.
Well, Tara was my next-door neighbor. I moved into the apartment right next to her, and we became close at that time. And she told me about it when we were having a conversation. And as Rich put forth in the article in the Business Insider, I was having a moment outside. I was outside, and I had just received some papers, and I was upset about them. And she came over, and we were talking about violence, because I had experienced violence myself. And she started telling me about Joe Biden and what he had done. And basically, she told me that he put her up against a wall, and he put his hand up her skirt, and he put his fingers inside her. And she was very distraught, and she was very upset, and she was crying.
The issue with this is that it's just going to go round and round and round and round, and unless there is an actual piece of paper that says, here's what he did. But even if he only was flattering and complimentary about her legs, this is a pattern with Biden, and it's just been accepted. Everyone's like, it's just Joe, or old creepy Joe, or whatever, and there's no accountability for it, which is inconsistent, of course, and it just makes the Democrats in this case look incredibly lame and weak. On the other hand, I completely understand, because I know women who have been assaulted. Very similar to this case, or the alleged case, and they didn't stop their assaulter. They didn't mention it to anybody. It's very easy to put this out. It's very shocking. So you put it out of your mind, the story can change. I mean, the mind is an incredible thing. It's not abnormal that women will not talk about this in a report or in some other way like that. That they talk about it to fellow survivors, possible. I'm curious if this Linda said, let's go report right away. But also that doesn't happen. This is 1993. We didn't have a Me Too. So that's evolved quite a bit. One other possibility is that just the harassment alone, not the penetration, was shocking enough for her, a young, impressionable girl, a big, powerful senator like this. Maybe he didn't do that, but she kind of got into a Brian Williams vibe. It happens to Democrats, and before you know it, she was in the helicopter crashing under heavy fire. You know, it's like it happened to Hillary Clinton. She lied about that stuff too, which is very possible. People believe this happened.
Or that's an over time thing. But these stories, like what Linda's telling here, is at the moment. This is within the moment, and with her mom, it's within a year of the event.
Right.
So that's a little. You don't start creating these stories like Brian. But that was years earlier, and same thing with Hillary.
But the next question,
Hillary's just full of shit all the time.
But the obvious question is, why not in 2008? When Biden was picked to be vice president, and why now? That's a very fair question that I have not heard answered properly.
That no one's asked. That needs to be asked to Tara.
No one's asked that question?
No one asks anything. It's the media. If it was a Republican,
Yeah, you're right.
But it's not sad. One of these. These guys are. This is all the next man up. I mean, the Democrat Party is the party. The Republicans would like to be this party, but the Democrats are this party, which is why a lot of people are attracted to it. The Democrat Party is next man up. You wait in line, you do your thing, you become a congressman, you do this, then you move up, then you're next man up, you're going to be the senator, you're the next man up. Okay, who's on the list to be the president? And all the rest of it is bogus. And all the nominations and all the rest. No, Biden was the next man up. Because he decided to be. It would have been a problem if when Hillary was next man up. And so these next man up, so they don't, they're just stuck with the guy. They're loyal. They're very loyal, this party, to their people. And so they're very loyal to Biden. And so you're not going to see a lot of what, these complexities aren't going to be there. Hey, let's go to the second part of this clip.
And what year was this that you had that conversation?
Well, it was either 1994 or very early, 1995 or early 1996.
And Linda, if you could...
So mind you, that's not really at the time, John. That's 3 years later, possibly.
This one witness. The mom was at the time, the brother was at the time, and the other neighbor was at the time.
I get the feeling you believe that Biden did this.
Yes.
96.
And Linda, if you could talk about your response at the time. Did she tell you it was Senator Biden who she had worked for?
She did. She did tell me that. And, I really didn't pay that much attention at the time. I didn't really care much about politics. I knew she worked for him. I didn't know really who he was much. I didn't put that much importance on it. So, but
can you talk about why you've decided to come forward now? I understand you're a Biden supporter. Is that right?
That's correct. I'm a strong, lifelong Democrat, and I am a Biden supporter. And, I didn't know about all the stuff that was going on in the news. She told me about it last month. She called me and she told me that she had decided to come forward with it. And I said, and she told me about the allegations, and I said, oh yes, I remember that. So then we talked again a little over a week ago, and I volunteered to come forward. And again, I worked so much, I hadn't really had time to pay as much attention as I could have. But I did volunteer to come forward. And the reason I volunteered to come forward is just I feel that the truth needs to be told.
I realize that we are uniquely positioned to do some fun things with this story for as long as it lasts, which will not be very long, I guarantee you. Particularly if we compare it to the Kavanaugh rape allegations. Here is Democracy Now!, a report from, it doesn't even seem that long ago, does it?
Meanwhile, the National Council of Churches has called for Kavanaugh's nomination to be withdrawn, saying he showed extreme partisan bias during last week's Senate hearing into sexual assault allegations by Christine Blasey Ford against him. The group represents some 45 million churchgoers at 100,000 U.S. churches.
Where are they now? Where are they now?
Where are they?
Where are they
these
now?
People?
Wait. And these are all your clips, by the way. I don't know if you remember much of them. Let's just listen to this one. I'm just rando clip.
Layla Bagwell. I mean, just I'm gonna ask the same question I ask of Anjali. Are young people getting mixed signals from our nation's leaders right now?
I think that there is some obvious sexism in that, as we tell boys that.
I mean, this was the discussion that was going on around Kavanaugh. Boys, our leaders have horrible examples. Joe, no, you're not going to do that.
It's all good with Joe.
It is.
Well, I can skip the last one if you want, but it's only 1 minute. Let's play clip 3 from Linda, and then we'll move to the end of this, which will be Tara Reid actually talking.
And just talk about how you mesh believing her now that she was sexually assaulted by her boss, by Senator Joe Biden. That's her allegation. If you believe her, why you support him?
It's a difficult thing. I've always supported him, and I just have to keep supporting him now. And it's a little bit harder now after this allegation. I'm a definite anti-Trumper, so
no kidding.
So I'm having a little bit of a hard time with it.
This is the position that the United States of America is in right now. We have become so polarized and politicized that it is more acceptable to wink, wink, nod, nod, let Joe slide on this because ultimately he's going to take out the orange man bag.
Orange!
And therefore, okay, one finger bang, who gives a shit?
So, but... mostly it's an anti-Trump thing, and
exactly.
I saw him on Morning Joe this morning, and he looks very believable too. But I'm hearing this today, and I heard Tara a long time ago telling me that.
This puts a lot of Democrats in this situation, and that's why we're not seeing this on the regular media, because the media itself would have
is a brain fry.
And so we get it. We get it. We get to watch the interview. You get to see Crystal Ball on an internet TV show.
Wait, hold on one second. I just wanted to say, and I think that we can see things pretty evenly. And I was like, either way, I'm not outraged. I'm not running around like my head's on fire, or head chopped off, pants on fire. Neither are you. Didn't do the same with Trump either. What we're seeing, this is very similar to when Trump was going through all this. The people who were always Trump, they let it slide. They let all those, now it wasn't to the same level, in my opinion, as what we're talking about here, but they let it slide. It's like, and when he says crazy ass shit, people are like, it's just Trump, man. The Democrats are doing the same with Joe Biden, and we have to recognize that both sides will do this. The Democrats are saying, well, Joe, he did this, but we have to get rid of Trump, so, we need Joe can't string 3 sentences together. Yeah, but it's Joe, he's going to get rid of Trump. That's what's happened, and I think it's a magnitude of order more severe. an order of magnitude more severe. With Trump,
well, there's always the loyalists on both parties, and they're always going to vote for their guy. And this woman is right at the crossroads of maybe just not voting, which I think a lot of people will do, because they can't vote for Trump.
I think a lot of
not vote.
I think a lot of Trumpers, especially women, in the 2016 election, were on the fence when the grab 'em by the pussy thing came out. This is a different
got the majority of white women. So,
yeah, but this is a different level. I'm just observing.
Yeah, this is a little more.
I'm observing what's going on here.
Less talking, more action with Joe.
Rubber meets the road with Joe.
He's a doer.
He's a grower, not a shower.
So let's go to Tara Reid was on Democracy Now! And this was a while ago. This is when this all first came out. And nobody picked up on it. It just died in the water. And it's only recently that and everyone's beside themselves about what to do about this.
Now, how long ago was this?
Can COVID go on longer?
Wait, how long ago was this interview?
It was when she first came out with the accusation.
Was that before?
Democracy Now! Caught her right away.
Was that before the Rona?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. If it's not before the Rona, it will be mentioned in here.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start with Tara Reid on Democracy Now! I only have 3 clips, but just start with the intro, which kind of brings it right to the fore.
Senatorial records at the University of Delaware, which are sealed to the public, and his comments during the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearings, in which he said, for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she's talking about is real, unquote. Joe Biden's denial comes as 2 more people have come forward this week to corroborate the account of Tara Reid. Business Insider reported earlier this week that Reid's former neighbor said the pair discussed the assault in detail in the mid-1990s, and that Tara Reid described then Senator Biden pushing her up against a wall and digitally penetrating her. A former colleague who also knew Reid in the mid-90s said she'd spoken of being sexually harassed by her former boss in Washington, D.C. Tara Reid first came forward with her allegations in March. She recounted the incident on Democracy Now! A warning, her description is graphic.
I really enjoyed digital penetration. Oh, my God.
So here we go with Tara Reid on Democracy Now! This is part 2, and this is her intro. This is a long clip, but it's a good clip.
I was approached by my supervisor. She handed me a gym bag and said, hurry, Joe wants this, so get it to him. He's meet you down towards the Capitol. And I went down the stairs, and I don't remember exactly where I was because there's connections between the Russell building and all of that and the corridors. But we were in a semi-private location. It wasn't a room. It wasn't the Russell office building. It was, his office. It was down in the corridors. And I handed him the gym bag, and then it was one, as I described, fluid moment. He was talking to me, and he said some things that I don't recall. And I was up against the wall, and I remember the coldness of the wall, and I remember his hands underneath my blouse and underneath my skirt, and his fingers penetrating me as he was trying to kiss me, and I was pulling away. And he pulled back, and he said, "Come on, man, I heard you liked me." But he was angry. It was like a tight voice. And he tended to smile when he was angry. And he isn't like the Uncle Joe like everybody talks about now. He was younger. He was my dad's age at that time, and very strong. And he looked insulted and angry. And I remember feeling like I had done something wrong when he said that statement. And then I was standing there when he said, he was still near me. He said, pointed his finger and said, "You're nothing to me. You're nothing."
Damn.
And he walked away. And I don't remember exactly where I went after. I think I went to the restroom to clean up, but I don't remember precisely. The next memory I have is sitting on the cold stairs in the Russell building backstairs where the big windows are. And I remember just my whole body shaking. And I remember knowing that I had made him angry and that my career was probably over. Sitting on those stairs, the reality hit me. The next thing I remember was that night and talking to my mom, and she was like, you need to file a police report. It's a sexual assault. And I didn't think of it as sexual assault, and I didn't really understand. And I was trying to just get over the shock of it because I looked up to him. He was supposed to be a champion of women. And I was so thrilled to be at that office and so honored. And it shattered my life and changed the trajectory of my whole career in life. And I lost my job after I complained, and I was fired.
Holy crap, John. I'm so glad you brought this. There are things said here that I did not read anywhere. I've not heard any of these things.
Why do you think that is?
Very good details in that. Could this be a Hillary op?
No.
No. She's brazen, she is.
Well, she's got the kind of details about the cold against the back of her. I'm not saying it didn't happen. Is the timing of this, etc.? No, I know what you're thinking, because you can always suspect Hillary, but I think Hillary's. I don't think so.
You're right. She would have been dead if Hillary were after her.
Well, I wouldn't think. I mean, Hillary's after Biden's job or his position, so she can become the nominee. This girl.
What do you mean? Joe was all but saying it's you. It should have been you. Gee, it's you. Hey, Hill. I shouldn't even be here.
He's trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen to the last part of this.
That was pretty shocking to listen to. It was pretty shocking.
It's very shocking, and it's believable. And it's got all the Joe Biden earmarks, the way the guy's probably a borderline personality guy.
Yep.
He's got issues. He's creepy. And here we go.
We were following up on a podcast interview done by journalist Katie Halper. Many news outlets were slow to report Tara Reade's allegations, but her story gained renewed attention last weekend when archival video emerged of Reade's mother anonymously calling into Larry King's show on CNN in 1993 and making a reference to what happened to her daughter Tara.
Hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
Tara Reade has confirmed the voice of the caller was her mother, who died in 2016. Joe Biden's campaign has denied Reade's sexual assault claim, calling her allegation untrue. All this comes as Joe Biden has picked up several high-profile endorsements this week, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Congressmember Pramila Jayapal, who co-chairs the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
March 31st is when she was on Democracy Now! And I remembered vaguely. But, yeah, I remember, gosh. Shocked, I tell you. There's sexual harassment going on there.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, not to bring a little sexism into this, if you see a picture of her at that age when she was 27 or whenever this happened, she looked like a model. And
oh, really?
Oh, she was literally gorgeous.
Oh, okay.
In a very model-like way. I mean, she wasn't just pretty. And so you end up thinking Biden is one of these guys. He's a douchebag. And he probably just thought she was a loose woman, or I don't know what he was.
Oh, my goodness, you're right. Well, she has that sultry kind of look.
Yes, she's sexy looking.
To be a sexist jerk, but let's just discuss it.
That's the thing that we can do. We can be sexist jerks, but we can discuss. This is an element.
Yes, it is.
That can't be overlooked. It will be overlooked by the media because they can't talk about a woman's appearance. But this woman was gorgeous, and Biden was a douchebag, and so he just goes after her. And she was probably somebody that really wanted to be in the political machinery, not as a whore, and. Right. It didn't work out for her, and she
just looking the difference between the pictures then and now, it's also very possible this really messed with her head, man.
I believe it did.
Yeah,
she says it did.
Jeez, what? That's like day and night.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you work with a psycho.
Yeah. Jeez.
Anyway,
it's not often that I just dumbfounded. I can't say anything, but I'm shocked by this.
Shocked,
I tell you. Shocked. Good report.
Yeah, it was pretty. I'm totally believe that this happened, and I believe it probably happened to other women too. And some may come forward.
I think there's another person who did come forward.
Yeah, they'll come out of the woodwork after a while because
Eva Murray. Hold on, there's one brand new came out today. Let's see what this is. Also reported by. Let's see. New woman claims Biden sexually harassed her when she was 14, and the allegation there is that her mom introduced her at some function to Joe, and he said, "How old are you?" And she said, 14. He said, "Oh my God, you're really well endowed for 14." Which apparently left her somewhat confused at the tender age of 14.
What?
Yeah, you think?
Oh.
Before we take our break, just a little bit of different news. We're going to go to Scandinavia because Scandinavia, amidst all of the Rona-fied news that we have going on, and by the way, RonaRadio.com is your source for all the information. They had a mass shooting, the biggest one in Canada's history.
Yeah, the one in Nova Scotia.
Yes, and but it wasn't in one spot. It was spread out.
No, the guy was nuts. He was shooting everybody.
And it was driving a police cruiser, and there's a lot of stuff that we have absolutely no knowledge of or what happened or what went on.
But even the Chinese, even I said Chinese, that's funny.
Chinese,
even the Canadian media, Chinese media,
what's the difference?
Didn't cover it at the time very well. It's only being covered in retrospect.
Well, we've had a little change in Scandinavia. What they've tried to do here for over 200 years, they succeeded.
We are closing the market for military-grade assault weapons in Canada.
The Liberals following through on a campaign promise to crack down on assault-style weapons. 1,500 different models and variants of assault-style firearms are on the chopping block.
Effective immediately, it is no longer permitted to buy, sell, transport, import, or use military-grade assault weapons.
The ban covering a wide range of rifles with the aim of making Canada safer, saying the guns were designed for the battlefield, not hunting or sport shooting. And the move comes just weeks after a gunman killed 22 people in Nova Scotia, the worst mass shooting in Canadian history. Gun proponents argue the killer did not have a license in the first place, but the incident was enough to spur the government into action.
These weapons were designed for one purpose and one purpose only: to kill the largest number of people in the shortest amount of time.
He's got his talking points.
The changes are being made through regulation rather than legislation. They include a 2-year amnesty period as the government figures out a buyback system for current owners. Under the amnesty, the newly prohibited firearms can only be transferred or transported within Canada for specific reasons, and owners must keep the gun securely stored until there is more information on the compensation program. Canada's public safety minister trying to ease the anxiety of law-abiding gun owners.
I want to assure hunters and farmers and target shooters in this country that nothing that we are doing today or will do in the future is intended to interfere with this lawful, responsible, and legal activity.
I'm a little disappointed in Canada. It's only regulations, it's not a law. I mean, come on, pussies. If you really mean it, do it. This can get turned around. This regulation can be changed or expanded.
Well, there's also this assault style. You know, these rifles. These are rifles we're talking about.
He said he's saying it a little differently. He's saying military.
No, he said military grade.
Yeah, which is bullcrap
at one point, and then he said assault style at another point. So I don't know if it's assault style. I don't have the thing in front of me, or military grade. But first of all, let's make it clear that assault style
is just style.
It's a style.
It's like a sports car.
Yeah. It doesn't mean it's a race car. You got a sports car. It's not a race car.
Yeah, exactly. You got a Miata.
But,
you got a sports car.
So the gun is styled in this because fashion applies to guns like it applies to everything else.
Of course.
Nobody wants one of those old cornball looking 30-06s with a big wooden thing and horrible. I mean, it's a stupid-looking gun with a big. You want something that looks like mean. It looks like a man's gun.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Like your car. You want a muscle car.
But people that don't know anything about weaponry, because they don't, and they used to teach in high school. They'd have gun safety classes. They'd teach all this stuff in high school that kids need to know. No, they keep you from that. Gender studies. We'll do gender studies instead of just gun safety. No gun safety, gender studies. It's just like, so you end up with a situation where people don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah, they don't. But he's just the PM.
About gender.
He's just the premier. Yeah. Well, if you want to talk gender, they know every single version of that. They can't tell a military style assault rifle from an actual military weapon, but they can tell you how many genders there are. Is that your point?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So it's the schools. The schools have been we're done because of the schools. They lost control.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
And we do have a few people to thank for show 1239. Indeed. Starting with Heather Heineken.
Heineken. It would be great if she was a real Heineken, but no, Heineken.
It's Heineken. It's close. Except she's not in Holland. She's in Seattle. $150.
I want to read this note. My original donation was under my maiden name as John pronounced it. Who. It's actually pronounced like it's spelled. Okay. Happy anniversary to my amazing husband, Daniel. We got married May 3rd, 6 years ago, welcoming our first child this month, requesting some karma for an unmedicated natural birth and a happy, healthy baby. Thank you both for your sensible coverage of the Rona, as most of the population is being swept by fear of propaganda. If you feel like it, though, seriously, I have been around this block. The epidural is available for quite some time until it's not. But I hope you're able to do it. I can only imagine. You'd have to chop my head off.
Mark Hall's next on the list. From Austin, your buddy, 13310. And I do have to read a little part of this note. He says, many good shows lately, although John's recent in-depth report on Harvey Weinstein's genitalia left me closer to upchucking a brown butter lobster roll. Keep unraveling COVID. And it wasn't I was just playing clips.
No, I know. It's Killing Education.
It's a very good
documentarian, Mark Hall. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Tristan Onion Martans in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 12391. Richard Boyd.
We missed one here. As I inch my way towards knighthood, I feel the smaller donation is a necessity and essential to call out a couple of douchebags.
Oh.
Number one is Ashley, the thrasher of trash cans.
Douchebag.
Thew, which may or not be short for Matthew.
Douchebag.
And Tristan. No, that's from him. Okay, that's it. All right, douchebag's done.
Well, we got another one then, because Richard Boynton comes in from Syracuse, New York, with $123.90. And he says, I was hit in the mouth by my friend Frank 6 months ago and have been thankful that you and John are now part of my weekly brain sanitation. Since then, I've been hitting everyone I know in the mouth, whether it's a short, anyway. Where's the call out here?
Yeah, it's my friends Frank.
Douchebag.
And Jeremiah.
Douchebag.
And he needs a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
And back office is not paying attention here, but the next one's also a de-douching. Cheryl
He
Wetzel.
doesn't really have a color code for de-douching.
Well, there's
Cheryl Wetzel
there's at least 256 of them I can think of.
No, he has the red is for douchebag call out.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow is for birthday. He's got no color code for de-douching.
Oh, I know.
It was Cheryl Wetzel in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, with 123.90. She wants a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
And also for a friend, Alan K.
And just to be clear, everybody, de-douching is for when you're a first-time donor. It's not just because you want it.
Well, it's a couple. Yeah, you can't just have it. Well, some people ask for it after. It means a couple different things. One, you haven't donated for a long time, and you feel like a douchebag because people are calling you one, and so you need a de-douching. Okay, that's one. The other one's the first time you ever donated after listening to the show for a fairly long time. I don't think it's necessary for someone who's listened to the show twice and all of a sudden donated to ask for a de-douching, and most of them don't.
Right.
But sometimes you might run into that. But it's not necessary. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. It's not right. Sir Callistra in Attleboro Falls, Massachusetts. That's 12345. Once the jobs come, I put that at the end, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They met you, I guess.
Yes, in Del
Scott Talima, $100. Sir Fack Bass in Houston, Texas, 100. John Robinet, 100. Vanessa Campbell in Perham.
And she dedicates this donation to her husband, Mark Campbell, for their anniversary on May 5th. Cinco de Mayo!
And that's 100. Sonia Rose, 98.30. Baron Mark Tanner comes in twice a month, 76.54. He's varying it a little bit. Sir Gott Nate Sebastopol, 69.69, who comes in a lot.
Per. I think it's
Per Ingvarsson in Borl, Sweden, 60-60. Small boobs. Or no, that's not even small boobs. Jeffrey Sewell in San Francisco. Hey, 56.76. That came in as a check. Tommy Barnes in Midland, Texas, 55.20. Darren Christie in Spokane, Washington, 55.20. These are all happy birthday Cinco de Mayo donations. In fact, I'll just read them as 5520. I'll just name the location. Darren Christie, Michael Olson, Joshua Schmidt in Minnesota, Jim N. in Tulsa, Sir Slam Bob?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, Slam Bob, that's it.
Slam Bob, Sir Slam Bob in San Jose, Brian Furley in Littleton, Colorado, Gary Marquardt in it's actually Wayzata, Minnesota. Sir Tom Dari in DeForest, Wisconsin. Eric Hokel in Mulrose, Deutschland, 52. Oh, he's in 52. So that was our list. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 people took part in the promotion, which means it was ineffective.
It still beats Mother's Day.
Oh, Mother's Day we get nothing.
There's not a lot
which
of
is
love.
coming. Ian Trimble in Baton Rouge, 51.99. Michael.
Oh, hold on a second. This is Ian is donating for Moose, who did an album art recently. Moose actually also helped with some of the Kennedy clippage for me. This donation is from Moose to help him get on his path to knighthood. He helped me make some artwork on a Value for Value podcast for a show about dudes named Ben. I was recommended Moose from the outstanding community on noagendasocial.com. Thanks, DC Girl and comic strip blogger. Pay it forward. This is how it's supposed to work. I love that. Thanks, Ian.
And now we go to the $50 donors, name and location. These are all $50 donors. Michael Janowski in Lindora, Pennsylvania. Bradley Ledden. Andrew Oxenham in Knoxville, Tennessee. Douglas Ingstrom. Lucero Mose in Vala Beach, Australia. Baron Sir Alan Bean in Tigard, Oregon, where he's now moved from Oakland. Aichi Kitagawa in San Francisco. Sir Brian Watson in Raleigh, North Carolina. Sir Brett Farrell in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And that concludes our list of producers for show 1239. I want to thank each and every one of them for making this all happen.
Yes. And especially thanks for the Cinco de Mayo. I see a lot of well wishes for Theodorable, your grandson, who will be celebrating, was it Cinco is Tuesday? Yeah, on Tuesday. Very nice of everybody. And of course, we want to thank everyone who came in under $50. Some for anonymity, but as you've heard other producers say, we do have these programs, subscriptions you can get on, and people become knights, dames, barons, baronets over time. It does work, and we've got some attractive gear for you if you decide to go that route. But we would definitely appreciate some help and consider us for the next show will be on Thursday. Just go to
Dvorak.org.
As requested.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Just days away from Cinco de Mayo. We got some birthdays to list. Tim W. says happy birthday to his daughter Sophia. She'll turn 11 on the 5th. Joseph Finley, happy birthday to his daughter Brooke. She turns 19 today. Sir Jim Watts will be celebrating on the 5th. Rich Ballard says happy birthday to his granddaughter Brielle, who hopefully was born during the show or maybe just before. And we all say a big happy 3rd birthday to the one and only Theodorable, celebrating on Cinco de Mayo. Happy birthday from your Pop-Pop!
It's your birthday, yeah. Title changes. Turn and face the slaves. Title changes. Don't want to be a douchebag.
And we thank Sir Jim Watts for upgrading his status on the Peerless ranking and charts, which is itm.im/peerage or dvorak.com.org/peerage.htm. He today, thanks to an additional $1,000 in total, has upgraded to the Baron of Whistler and the Gribaldi Park. And we welcome him to that part of the of Gitmo Nation, and I hope one day he'll be able to visit again. Look forward to it. No knights, no dames today. That's all we got there for our donation. But thank you all very much, and we look forward to doing it again. We cannot leave without talking about Flynn.
Well, I have a lot of Flynn clips.
Can I have backgrounder stuff, so maybe if I set that up.
Why don't you do that? Because these clips are mostly Trey Gowdy, although I have to say he did reveal something that would make all the sealed indictment guys feel bad.
So before we get into the weeds, just make it very, very simple. Flynn got a new lawyer.
Michael Flynn, the lieutenant general that was the head of the DIA, and he got railroaded by the FBI to get him out of the Trump administration.
Yeah, he was going to be national security advisor, or he was national security advisor.
He was for about a month.
And he was entrapped, and this has all come out now based upon him hiring a new lawyer. Sidney Powell, who was very famous, and she's kick-ass. And there was, and really, just to cut to the short of it, Jim Comey sent some agents in to coerce Michael Flynn in the White House really it was they were interrogating him, and he wasn't really told that this was the type of interview that it was. And they had even written down, or someone had written down on notes, that we're either going to get him to admit to it or resign or get him fired. And the reason for that, I have my thoughts about. We'll talk about after he goes through some of the clips. But the smoking gun evidence that Sidney Powell is talking about now with this note is that the person who sent these agents, including Peter Strzok, to help Flynn incriminate himself or testify against himself, plead guilty to something he wasn't guilty of necessarily or at all, was James Comey, and that's witnessed in this smoking gun clip from I think it's about a year and a half ago, as he was bragging about it.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the same room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration.
Interesting flub. I hadn't even heard that. A more organized investigation, then he says administration.
In a more organized investigation, a more organized administration.
Ruh-roh.
In the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. In both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought it's early enough
let's just send a couple guys over.
So that smug arrogance may come back to bite him in the ass. Here is Sidney Powell. This is all background, but it gives you a good overview, two-parter. She was on with the original Money Honey, Maria Bartiromo, Sunday.
Well, a guilty plea is supposed to be knowing and voluntary. His was neither. We have evidence that we produced earlier this week that General Flynn's guilty plea was coerced. We found documents that indicate that from the Covington law firm, that they had a secret side deal with Mr. Van Grack, the prosecutor, and I'm sure it's Mrs. Ahmad, too, that was on the special counsel operation. They had threatened to indict Michael G. Flynn, who had a 4-month-old baby, the general's son, if he didn't immediately agree to plead guilty. So that is coercion that's completely improper. And they also hid from him all the evidence that we've uncovered that shows he's innocent, that they made up the entire thing. Of course, he knew that, but he had no evidence of it and no way to prove it because the FBI agents had gone in, ambush interviewed him, did not record the interview. Of course, they didn't even tell him that they were interviewing him as a subject. They schemed and connived to keep him from knowing that he was a subject of the interview. They deliberately wanted to avoid that because they wanted to keep him relaxed and unguarded. Nothing about this case was done right. They violated every rule, every protocol, and then have long hid since the beginning of the investigation the evidence that they knew he was innocent. The entire prosecution was false. It must be dismissed for the government's egregious misconduct and his guilty plea withdrawn. The standard is supposed to be lenient before sentencing. It's really not that hard, but it definitely should be withdrawn.
So the part of this that's interesting is that his original law firm had some secret side deal with the prosecutor, apparently to get Flynn to plead guilty to a crime he didn't commit. But there's an interesting kicker in this second clip.
So Sidney, wait a second. What you're telling me is that General Flynn's first lawyer before you, the Covington firm, had a deal with prosecutors to make sure that he pled guilty. Now, I know that Covington is also, Eric Holder is a partner at that law firm. They did not unearth any of these documents that you found. You're saying that they hid them specifically, intentionally?
Isn't that interesting? The former Attorney General Eric Holder's law firm cut a deal to basically
to screw this guy. This is actionable.
I have a theory about this, and then I want to hear your clips. So, according to what we've heard and what the president has said and is now accepted knowledge, when President Obama met with incoming President-elect Trump, he said the two things you got to watch out for is North Korea. Interesting, that starts to spark up now with some weirdness. North Korea, because, he's got nuclear bombs. And Michael Flynn. So this is not just the guy's a dick. And I can say from firsthand experience, in general, intelligence people hate Michael Flynn. My uncle told me personally, Uncle Don, he would not be caught in the same room as Michael Flynn. And this is, I believe, for a number of reasons. One is he's military intelligence, so CIA and FBI don't even think military have any business doing that at all. But he also was, and I'm not saying this is why Uncle Don doesn't like him, but he also wasn't going along with the ISIS trick. And he says, you can't trust Islamic terrorists to do your bidding. You can't just give them a whole bunch of guns and make them do stuff. It's not necessarily going to work. So he went against, rightfully so, against all policy.
Well, don't forget, we have clips.
But what if something else is going on?
Well, let me get this one out of the way, so just to pad your argument a little bit.
All right. You know where I'm going.
We have a clip of Michael Flynn doing the interview, as because he was in Afghanistan, I think, for a while, and he said, "There's no way. This is a waste of money." Mm-hmm. Remember those clips?
Yep.
And they never came to the fore, but he was talking about this is a waste of money, and we just should get out of here because this is nothing. This is bullshit. And I think that has something to do with it. This because these guys have schemes. You don't need a guy like this.
Is it really that necessary for President Obama to tell Trump, watch out for that guy because of that? I don't think so. Let's take the simple case that we have seen the Obama administration, but certainly in this election run, the Democrat Party. They project everything. Wat je zegt bij jezelf met je kop door de helft. We've looked at this. We've identified it hundreds of times. They project. So what if? Is it maybe possible that the Mueller scheme was not to get rid of Trump, but to protect a Russian spy ring inside the U.S. government at high level? And I think Peter Strzok is possibly a double agent. And Flynn knew it, and he knew it, and they had to get rid of Flynn, and they really screwed the guy all the way down into the ground. Something is going on. It ties back into all this. It's not just because of, people didn't agree with his policy. I think this has always been about some kind of deal with Russia. It makes nothing but sense because we know Russia's not actually a threat, but there was a lot of money to be made with Russia. A lot.
Well, I'm going to stick with the idea that something's going on along those lines, but why does it have to be Russia? Obama administration was filled with Muslim Brotherhood folk.
Yeah, or could be Chinese,
and
John.
Brennan, the CIA guy, is a Muslim who was, converted in Saudi Arabia. There's plenty of evidence of that. He's never been asked directly by the media. Could it be something along those lines? Because Flynn was involved with the Muslims more than he was with the Russians. He gave one speech in Russia. I don't see that much of a connection. Or could it even be worse than both of these and be a Chinese ring?
China. That's what I'm really worried about.
Because the Chinese have taken over the media. They've done a lot of good work.
They've taken over our education.
They got everything going on. I mean, they're unstoppable.
The only thing they don't have is this show. We will be the last ones to go. But when we go, we'll be rich.
Yeah, well, and the Huawei thing is still, it's obvious that this is a spy device
operation.
And the Europeans are just being hounded into buying this gear. Why don't you just have a direct phone and make sure that they're on the line every time you have a phone call? I mean, this makes no sense to me.
If the Chinese run the media, is it then yellow journalism? This is my racist.
Ooh.
This is my racist
Very
joke.
racist. You should be fired.
Racist joke of the day. Thanks, troll room.
Someone in that troll room is out of control.
I'm just reading, man. I'm just reading the prompter.
Oh, you're reading from the troll room. You're making mistakes. Let's go with, now, so Trey Gowdy was on Fox News being interviewed about the Flynn story, and he's got some good stuff. Now, I have 4 clips. I got 0, 1, and 2, and then at the bottom you'll find under the name Trey Gowdy, goes off on the FBI. That's a separate clip.
Okay.
So let's play these clips, then we'll be done.
Okay.
Let's go with 0.
0 it is. Can I ask you why you decided to do 0 instead of 1?
Yes, I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you exactly why, so you can understand this. So I'm doing clips, and they come at me, and sometimes in backwards order. I say, well, I'm going to have 4 clips. I'll call this.
Yeah. I know this has happened to me too. I know what you did.
Yeah.
Okay. You needed to put a clip in front, and you already had the label, the 1 and the 2. I got you. All right, Flynn on Fox.
The agents prepared the White House to interrogate National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn, telling him that he didn't need a lawyer, not to worry about that. They had written on, Bill Presap, who was head of counterintelligence at the FBI, wrote this on a piece of paper. What is our goal? Truth, admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him and get him fired? Question mark. Lawyers and former agents are coming to the defense of the Bureau, including the lawyer for the Ukraine whistleblower, saying this, quote, the FBI notes reveal consideration of routine law enforcement interview tactics and by no means undercut General Flynn's prior admissions of lying to the FBI.
Stop. I'm sorry. I just realized it. It's Ukraine. And that's where okay. I will continue, but now I know. Not Russia, not China. I'll bet you Ukraine.
Felony and accepting full responsibility for his actions. To which Kim Strassel at the Wall Street Journal fired back. As for liberal commentators, legal scholars saying that all of this is routine, well, let's sure as hell hope not. The FBI exists to investigate crimes, not create them. That from Kim Strassel at the Journal. Here now, Trey Gowdy, Fox News contributor and former chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Trey, welcome. Good to have you here. What do you think? Were the notes and was the investigation of General Michael Flynn at the White House routine for the FBI and for the agents who carried it out?
I hope not, Martha. And if it is routine, then why didn't they apply the same standard to Hillary Clinton that they did to Michael Flynn? I mean, if you go back, so Flynn's under investigation in the summer of 2016, a counterintelligence investigation. The FBI found nothing. They didn't find an insufficient amount of evidence. They found no evidence, and they're about to close this investigation, and then he has the conversation with Kislyak. So Comey decides to send bureau agents to the White House. Why? I mean, that's the fundamental question. Were you investigating a crime, the Logan Act, which there's never been a prosecution under that act, or were you conducting a counterintelligence investigation? If it's a criminal interview, then why did you treat him so differently from the way you did Hillary Clinton? Remember, Martha, she had a medium-sized law firm in the room with her. They gave the questions to her lawyers before they interviewed her, and they most assuredly told her there's a consequence for lying, none of which they did for Michael Flynn.
You know, whenever these interviews annoy me because I can do all the comparison questions. Don't ask me why that didn't happen. Tell me why it happened with Flynn. Hopefully he does.
I don't know that he implies it's just that we're just after Flynn, but they don't have the what you're thinking of, which is something deeper. He doesn't have that, and it's kind of disappointing, especially when you get the last clip. And play the next one.
Beyond Flynn, they were hoping that if they pressed him hard enough and put him in a tough enough position and held some of his earlier comments against what he said there, that he would flip on President Trump.
I'm sorry?
This may be the answer. This is why they were going after Flynn. On the surface, this is what this particular question and answer answers your question.
Okay, we'll play it again from the beginning.
Beyond Flynn, they were hoping that if they pressed him hard enough and put him in a tough enough position and held some of his earlier comments against what he said there, that he would flip on President Trump, that he would give up some goods on the president. Do you agree?
Well, I do for this reason. There's also a notation in these documents released this week to use that defensive briefing as a pretense, as a ruse. So everyone that's offered a defensive briefing by the FBI, keep that in mind. They may be interviewing you. Remember, Comey did the same thing with Trump. He gave this defensive briefing on the dossier, but he was really interviewing him. They still thought Donald Trump was colluding with Russia when they went to interview with Michael Flynn. So I have every expectation they wanted to flip Flynn on the president. The problem was no one with the campaign was colluding with Russia. It wasn't Flynn, it wasn't Trump, it wasn't Papadopoulos. They were wrong about all four of their crossfire hurricane targets.
This makes no sense. Why would Obama say, careful of Flynn, stay away from him, if they really wanted to get him to flip Trump? That doesn't, like, if you tell Trump no, he'll get him, and then we can, I mean, were they using him as an asset unbeknownst to Flynn? I doubt that would happen.
I don't know, and I'm not convinced that Obama warned Trump about Flynn. I don't know there was any kind of coordinated efforts about anything like that.
Well, this is the story.
I question that story. I just question. Let's go on with that. Listen some more of Gowdy.
So how come when we heard from Robert Mueller and the investigation, 2 years and millions of dollars was finished and we got the report, where were these notes that we're seeing now?
They were not turned over. They have to be turned over if you're going to trial. There's a little bit of debate about it, but I think most people will tell you Brady does not implicate guilty pleas. So when Michael Flynn said, I'm going to plead, they didn't have to turn over the notes. But Martha, this is not the department of let's see if we can get away with it. And it's not the department of let's see who we can get fired. It is the Department of Justice. Sally Yates, who is hardly a Republican, was infuriated when she found out what Comey had done. So that's the Department of Justice. We don't care if you're an R or D. We don't care whether we like you or we don't. We're going to treat you the same. Mueller's folks did not turn over these documents because they didn't think they had to.
Given the importance of the job, the president thought there were better people for it and that Flynn wasn't up for the job, a former senior Obama administration official told CNN. So there is
CNN.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Hello. I'm just telling you that even the New York Times is reporting it. So,
yeah, same thing.
Could be a lie. Could be a lie.
I think it's a lie.
Interesting.
I definitely don't trust those two sources either, especially CNN.
Hello. Of course not.
So now let's listen to this. This is the Trey Gowdy goes off on the FBI. And this, to me, there's a little tidbit in here that I think we will both be amused by in retrospect.
Yeah, I think the Attorney General and U.S. Attorney Durham are both very interested in how this whole sordid affair began. So the 4 targets, let's just go with Flynn. All right, you're going to put a general under counterintelligence investigation by the world's premier law enforcement agency. Why? What is the factual predicate where you think you have the power to put him under counterintelligence investigation for being an agent of Russia? What was it? I mean, did he read a Chekhov novel? Did he watch Dr. Zhivago? Why did you put Michael Flynn under counterintelligence investigation? I think that's what Durham and Barr are getting at, is none of these investigations were sufficiently factually predicated. And if that's true, then you're going to see a clamping down on the power that we've given the FBI, and it's about damn time.
Do you think we'll see prosecutions?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I was talking to a federal prosecutor on the way over here, but we have got to not only associate accountability with prosecutions. I think being a terrible FBI agent and treating people unfairly, maybe it ought to be a crime, but I don't think it is a crime. The takeaway is the next time the FBI says, hey, we'd like to talk, tell them no. Say, when you clean up your act, when you quit trying to get people fired and see what you can get away with, we'll start treating you like a dispassionate law enforcement agency. But until then, no thanks. We're done talking with you.
Okay, 2 things. One, so much for the sealed indictments. Nobody's going to jail over this.
No.
And I think his argument is correct. I've worked for the government, and you can be a kind of a lousy agent and doing anything, and doesn't mean you're liable. And the other thing is that just don't talk to the FBI meme. We first brought that into play probably 6-7 years ago. This is what Thomas Drake, the NSA whistleblower, says at the beginning of his speeches. I was trying to find this clip of him saying it, but he says the most important thing he learned, and he was harassed.
I have it here. I think I have your clip. Hold on. Thomas Drake FBI comments?
Probably.
Let's take a quick listen.
After your experience, would you advise someone else in your position to blow the whistle on government wrongdoing?
Yes, but make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Do not speak to the FBI, and make sure you have a lawyer right from the start. If my case is any example, they'll do everything they can to take anything you say and anything they find and use it to justify charges that in my case were actually framed. See, I told the truth to the FBI agents. They didn't believe me. In fact, 4 of the 10 felony counts were for making false statements. One of them was for obstructing justice. You know why? Because the chief prosecutor said that unless I cooperated with the investigation, they were going to pursue prosecution. So the answer is yes. We actually need more. Having spoken to Daniel Ellsberg, he actually thought in the early 70s, with all the publicity that surrounded the Pentagon Papers, that more people would actually step forward. And other than some close colleagues and associates, guess what? Hardly anybody else stepped forward regarding the travesty of Vietnam.
February 2018, we played that clip.
Not that long ago. But that's what he makes that point. There's another clip of him where he's actually giving a speech where he says, don't talk to the FBI. Mm-hmm. Well, the idea of not talking to the FBI, includes when Flynn says that these guys he thought they were coming over to, just to pal around.
Hang out. Yeah, just chat, get a little deets.
Yeah. And so he was naive, and he, maybe should have paid closer attention.
Yeah, naive. That guy doesn't seem like someone who's naive in general, but I guess possible.
No, he doesn't. No, he was tricked.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Well, I do have the end of show clip if you want to.
Well, before we do that, I just want to check because we have a bit of an issue now with our end of show ISO. I really don't like Alex Jones as an end of show ISO. Not this one, at least.
No, you got other ones.
Well, not really. Here's one. This is the full clip in context, and then I'll give you the end of show ISO possibility.
Chance for us to share things like reducing childhood death and.
Maybe it won't work. Did you hear what he said?
No, it's too. No, I said mumbles. He mumbles.
Listen to this.
Reducing childhood death.
No.
Reducing childhood death.
He meant to say reducing childhood death, but he says.
He said produce it. Well, that's a blunder. Yeah, that's interesting.
Producing childhood death.
Producing childhood death.
That's a clip, but it's not. I don't think it's end of show.
Okay. We have the classic.
Yes, the beaches are back open. Woo-hoo!
Yes, let's use that because the beaches are back open. Let's go with that, and then we'll finish with this clip. This is the Mist. I think the Mist classic Biden clip. This is a clip that probably took place a few weeks back, and we never picked it up and we never used it. And I think it's a great clip of a gaffe.
Are you at all concerned, as Trump said, that we cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself?
We have to take care of the cure. That will make the problem worse no matter what.
I thought we played that one.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. It was too good. If we missed that one, then we don't deserve to be podcasters. That's what I'm telling you.
Well, that'll be the day.
And why the hell do those mini bell peppers live inside the bell pepper itself? These are questions we did not answer today.
Oh, you had one growing inside?
It's got to be some genetically modified shit going on.
It just happens once in a while.
Oh, okay. You say so.
One of the seeds sprouted inside and but decided it was in the dark and it produced a little bitty pepper.
Okay, I'll take that. Everybody, thank you very much. This was your deconstruction for today. No Agenda episode 1239 or 1240 will be next. We'll do that on Thursday. Please remember us at dvorak.org/NA. It's incredibly important. End of show mixes. We got Fletcher. We got some Jesse Coy Nelson. We got Proto V. We got Rulfi. And after this show on No Agenda, Stream.com, the Grumpy Old Benz. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. I am in Opportunity Zone 33, FEMA Region number 6 on the governmental maps in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I hate to say it, but I love this traffic, I'm John C. Dvorak.
Until Thursday, everybody. Adios, mofos! And such.
Regardless of your color, your creed, or your geography, I need you to know. Pop, pop.
Throw your hands in the air if you're a true player.
Big Mama, and speaking of mothers, do it for your abuela.
Should I make you play sound clips on command? Directing you guys on from high to do my bidding? Like my own personal sound monkeys?
Right to the allegation made. Do you remember her?
No.
Hey, Joe.
Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened.
Hey, Joe.
Why limit this only to Tara Reid? Why not release any complaints that had been made against you during your Senate career?
I'm prepared to do that. To the best of my knowledge, there's been no complaints made against me in terms of my Senate career, in terms of my office and anything that's been run. Look, this is an open book. There's nothing for me to hide. You all know what the phrase rule of thumb means? No man has a right to chastise his woman with a rod thicker than the circumference of his thumb.
For complete transparency, why not push for the release of any documents with Tara Reid's name on them, whether it's at the University of Delaware or the National Archives?
First of all, let's get this straight. There are no personnel documents. You can't do that. You wouldn't, for example, if you worked with me or I worked for you and you had my income tax returns, you had my whatever. They're private documents. They're not for they don't get put out in the public. So they're not part of the public record that in fact is that any senator or vice president or president has in their documents. Look.
Today, I am proud to endorse Joe Biden.
Are you home as well? We're seeing the soul of America now. Look.
I want to tell you about the Joe Biden I've seen working behind the scenes, hammering out solutions for the American people.
Stop the hammering!
Joe has been a voice of reason and resilience.
No, I don't believe so at all.
Stop the hammering!
It's not who we are.
Where's the hammer?
Joe Biden has been with us every step of the way to destroy every last benefit and protection for the American people. He knows how to get the job done.
There's a woman talking in my ear about something that has nothing to do with what we're doing here.
And reject governance.
Well, what's the big deal? Put people in cages. And it's logical and it's rational.
Where is it?
Helping create and save millions of jobs.
Where's the hammer?
We will deliver bold progress for the American people.
Crazy fucking sound coming in my ear, this fucking stupid hammering.
Because he never forgets his roots.
Windmills cause cancer.
The cancer moonshot.
It fucking sucks.
We need a forward-looking, battle-tested leader.
I was ready to prostitute myself.
Who will fight for the people.
Welcome, Hillary. It's great to have you here.
Mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA. Yes, the beaches are back open. Woohoo! Yeah.
This is Nick the Rat, and I love the No Agenda stream, the best podcast, information, and entertainment stream in all streamdoms. There's a lot of streams out there, but this is the best.
Podcast around the clock. This is the No Agenda stream.
Oh my God, everybody's got a fever! Hello and welcome to episode number 61 of Grumpy Old Bens. I am Darren O'Neill, coming to you live from a bunker deep in the heart of Middle America, just outside of Chirac, where we're not yet storming the Capitol, but we're going to get there, I'm thinking.
And from America's left coast, where the governors are keeping the economy behind a paywall, I'm Ryan Bemrose.
Isn't that what they all do? Keeping the economy behind a paywall?
Well, normally you get at least some free, first one's free, that sort of thing.
Like drugs.
But at this point, they're holding the entire economy back with some cheap JavaScript and cookies and a CSS fade out, saying if you would like access to the rest of your economy, please go get injected with Bill Gates' vaccine.
Oh my God. I mean, when the government's involved in anything, we know hilarity is going to ensue. We've not yet gotten our stimulus check, but we understood why, because the last tax return we filed actually owed a little bit of money in 2018. So they didn't have banking information. I know. How dare we pay the government anything? But because of that, the original thing that just gave us the error message over on the IRS website
which would basically just said, yeah, I don't know. Now finally came up with, we don't have your information. So we put that in, and now it's okay.
We were going to give you money, but you didn't pay us the VIG that we were trying to steal from you last year. So we're just going to hold it back. And shame, you terrible citizen, for not having the right amount of money extorted from you.
Kind of. And it is something that is still confusing to a lot of people. In the question was, because I guess when the Bush administration, there was something sent out similar, but it was just like a, you're getting your money back earlier than it was taxable. And this is a bit of a different animal, but I know a lot of people were confused thinking this was taxable, maybe going to put them into a different tax bracket, maybe cost them more to get the money than not. But this is not taxable, so that's a good thing. I mean, if anything.
Okay, is that a real thing? I'm no tax attorney, not that I can't, fake it and bloviate about it anyway, but people saying, oh, I don't want extra money because it'll put me into a different tax bracket. Each bracket is prorated for the size of the bracket below, which means that more money always, even if it's a very small amount because they decide to withhold 75% of it or whatever, more income still means you get more money at the end of the day. There's no scenario where somebody can pay you an extra dollar and now you have more in taxes stolen from you than you would have otherwise. Is there?
Well, as DC Girl in the troll room's pointing out, as you move up, the percentage could go up of what you owe. So if you're right on that line there, so I mean, this is simplistic, but if you make, $100,000 a year, if you're paying 5% in taxes, and when you make $101,000 a year, it goes up to 7% for everything, then yeah, you don't want that extra $1,000.
Well, but that's not how it works.
No, I know.
I mean, I understand I'm not very good at math, but if I'm not mistaken, it's like, suppose the brackets are the first 50,000 are taxed at 5%, and you make 53,000, or you make 48,000. Somebody gives you a $5,000 check. Here you go. Then the first 50,000 of that is taxed at
the lower rate,
5%, at the low rate. And then everything over that 50,000. So the last 3,000 is taxed at the higher rate. So it's not like they go and change the rate on the whole thing. It's the rate on the first bottom part is always a little bit higher, or is always the lower rate. And then everything over the threshold is taxed at the higher rate.
Seems to make sense.
Which I mean, it makes sense. So the idea that you get put into a higher bracket is a little silly, and maybe that's how taxes worked in the past, and maybe that's how some state tax
that's possible.
Laws work. But it's not how the federal works, and I'm believe it or not, Ed, this is one of the weirdest things considering I'm on the left coast, is I am in a state with no income tax. So the only filing that I ever do is federal.
Well, that is a hell of a good reason to have a company in that state, I suppose, for your employees.
Yeah, there's lots and lots and lots of really bad tax reasons to get out. In fact, it was 12 years ago that the largest company in the state suddenly became Microsoft. I suddenly overnight began working for the biggest company in the state of Washington. Not because Microsoft did any growing or anything like that, but because Microsoft had been second, and the largest company based in the state of Washington gave a big FU to the state governor and the state legislature, all of whom were constantly nickel and diming the fuck out of them with business taxes and payroll taxes and everything else. And Boeing got up and fucking left and said, yeah, we're going to leave our plants here because we can't move all the workers, but our headquarters is now in Chicago.
Woohoo! Good barbecue ribs. What is your sales tax rate in the area there?
It's like 10%.
It's about the same as here. And we have.
It's maybe 11, and I think it's 11 and a half in Seattle, but where I am, it's about 10.
Yeah, it's about, we got here sales tax. We also have, of course, the state income tax. And our state is flat broke. Yay! Thank you, Democratic control.
Well, don't worry. They're going to be demanding a bailout from U.S. Congress, and probably getting it, because Congress, of course, is If they want to get reelected, and they need to be seen to be doing something to help people, and helping people means giving your money to corrupt state governments.
Well, COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, I'm
COVID.
sorry. That's the excuse this time.
Yeah, COVID. I mean, that's why the state of Illinois is broke COVID. I mean, let's not look at the fact that it was broke 3 months ago.
No, I mean, very little has changed in the state finances other than we've done a fantastic job of stomping on the economy, but we're not feeling that yet. That's going to be felt for the next 2 to 5 years. The fallout from the economic damage that has been done by these overzealous politicians.
Well, one of the interesting things about this is going to be there is a lot of power in the hands of the president at this moment, because states like Illinois, who are asking for a bailout, and we all understand the what's going on. And I don't believe that the Fed should bail them out. But from what I understand, some of the negotiating
I don't believe the Fed should ever bail out anything. I don't believe that the money which has been stolen from me should be handed to somebody who made poor business decisions, whether they be a company that's quote unquote too big to fail or a local government that is run by corrupt politicians. I don't care. It used to be my money before it was taken at gunpoint by the fucking IRS. It needs to be spent on something that benefits me and not incentivizing terrible business decisions.
But we could just print more money. Haven't you figured that part out? We could just keep printing it. No problem. The Fed can do that. Of course, the states can't.
Can we get off this ride?
From what I understand, the White House is looking at people like Illinois, and I'm sure California, that want some help. They're like, bail us out, and going, you have sanctuary cities. We're not giving you any money. So now the question is going to be, where does the big, governors go for these states? Do they go, well, then we have to get rid of the sanctuary cities for the money? Which will they choose? That would be the intriguing part. I don't think any of it should be bailed out, but if there is going to be one, it will be interesting to see what governors do when you go, oh, you want federal funds? Then you have to get rid of the sanctuary cities. Will they do it? I don't know. It's a lot of money.
That is, in fact, a lot of money. And I don't know. I think they're going to find some way to weasel in to take the money, and then they'll just drop the sanctuary status for about 5 minutes. Right. And then before the federal law enforcement has a chance to mobilize, they'll take the money, spend it all, and then immediately go back to sanctuary status. And then when the feds come back and say, no, you didn't honor the terms of the deal, be like, well, we already dedicated this money to homeless children of drug addicts, and you don't want to steal money from children, do you?
Sure. The states and cities that are releasing dangerous prisoners is another really weird thing that's going on at these.
But it makes sense. They need space in the prisons, because they need somewhere to put all of the people who are going to the park with their families during this lockdown without masks.
During these troubling times, we need to be able to put the parents that take their kids to the park in jail and release the violent murderers, rapists, and all those kind of people. But
troubling times, that's another great bit of doublespeak. Troubling time. The times are troubled because you fucking caused it, you political dipshit.
Is anything that anytime I say something to my wife, it seems lately, she doesn't, want to give a flippant answer. It's like, well, during these troubling times, so like, when are you gonna make breakfast? Well, see, I always make breakfast, but so that doesn't really work. But any of those kind of questions, hey, you're gonna do this? During these troubling times, we need to look at our priorities. And the thing that blows my mind is the reason that is being given by these people that want to release these prisoners, especially here in the Chicago area, Cook County, that they bloviate out is, well, the prisons are a death sentence. It's like, really?
Yeah.
They're a death sentence anyway.
And so is being locked at home while your economy crumbles around you because everybody is in poverty, and all of the people who've never turned to crime before are being pushed out onto the street because they can't pay fucking rent and they can't buy groceries, and they're hungry, and they're going to go out and
But how is it a death sentence?
What we're doing is we're turning the rest of the world into the prisons. They're going to realize that prison isn't a punishment because letting these people out on the street is worse.
Well, there's no doubt about that, but I don't know how it's a death sentence when they're catching the same virus that people are catching when they go to the grocery store or whatever.
I haven't caught any virus going to the grocery store.
No, and not everybody's going to catch it in prison, so it's certainly not a death sentence, which is the point. I mean, I haven't heard of any prisons yet where it's like 80% of the population has died. It's like, well, older prisoners.
I mean, that is an overcrowded prison solution.
Yeah.
But it's not what the for-profit prison administrators want, because they don't get paid when people die in prison. They get paid to keep them there indefinitely, as many as possible.
But the concept of let the criminals out because they might get a virus doesn't make sense at all in any way, shape, or form.
No. Yeah. I mean, I might be cynical. I've come to the conclusion that anytime somebody speaks about public safety, they might be crazy.
You think so?
And I mean, there might be virus in prisons, but these people, I mean, okay, so stop pressing them together with a fucking squeezer. There's no virus out on the streets. All these people walking around, they wouldn't let me into Costco. I walked up to Costco and I went to go in there, like, well, you have to have a mask. And I'm like, then I'm not fucking shopping here anymore. Can I go in there? Can I go in there and cancel my fucking subscription? Oh, I'm sorry, we can't let you in the building. Okay, then you'll be getting a phone. Yeah, I just fucking left.
And they said, well, no, sir, you have to come in to cancel.
I can do that over the phone. Also, I'm not canceling yet. I just wanted to make a scene because, of course, I'm, totally, I have no balls. I'm improper. That you know of. I'm not that I'm showing you.
As
off.
You said.
There's no virus out there. What there is a shitload of Karens who are snitching on each other like we're the goddamn Third Reich.
Well, there is a virus. There's no question about that. But the response to it, all of a sudden, if this was so bad that we've been sheltering in place for a month or more, why all of a sudden do the masks come into play? That I don't really understand, because everybody has been doing their shopping without masks. Right. I mean, that's an intriguing
I thought social
part.
distancing was supposed to be the way to go. Like when they force you, they don't let enough people go in. They're like, okay, I'm sorry, this building is only the size of, it's only the size of an airplane hangar, but we can't let more than 30 people inside at a time. That was supposed to be enough, which is great when they force everybody to line up outside the store.
Well, here's what doesn't make sense to me when you're hearing these things about even the places that are opening up, especially restaurants, where, well, we can open up with 25% capacity. One, that's probably not enough to keep these restaurants in business, but let's forget about the economic side of that. Let's again look at...
that's not a good idea. We can't forget about the economic side of it.
But for a minute, we can forget about that and just look at restaurants or any buildings like that have ventilation systems that move air around. The CDC had a report, I think we talked about it, there was a Chinese restaurant that the 3/4 of it that was under another ventilation part, another air, what would you call it? Air movement. So,
vent.
Right. Well, the part that was under, that was, had the airflow there were two parts of their ventilation system.
Yeah.
The airflow that was on the second part, nobody was ill. Nobody got sick. The other part of the restaurant, which was like a third of the restaurant, that had one person allegedly ill, ended up having like 12 people get sick because of the way this blew the air back and forth across that area, which tells me this is airborne. So seating people 6 feet apart is meaningless if you have an AC unit or something that's actually moving the air from, your table to the next guy's table to the next guy's table. That air travels, believe it or not. It's a fallacy that you can just open up with 25% capacity and think people are safe because of air currents that happen.
Well, here's the trick. If you open up and everybody who walks in is healthy, because that's who we've been quarantining, is healthy people.
But how do you verify?
Sick.
How do you verify that?
Trust but verify? No.
Trust people. Come on, that's not Bemrose.
I trust individuals to act in self-interest and behave generally good as long as all else is equal. I believe it or not, I am really an optimist. I have a lot of faith in human nature. To be humans, which human nature is, people will, in order of priority, people will generally act in self-interest. They will act to make sure that they get what they feel like they deserve. They will, do right for themselves. All else being equal, if their own self-interest isn't in jeopardy, most people will be good. And a few people will be total assholes. And those people need to be punched in the face as often as you can. Well, at least as often as you can get away with it.
Well, it'll be interesting moving on because as you called it before we started the show up, it's popcorn time in Michigan and elsewhere. Are you enjoying this?
This is fascinating. Before this existential economic lockdown that was forced on us, it looked like the real breaking point of the country where left versus right was going to turn into a shooting war was going to be Virginia, because the dumbass leftist asshole was basically trying to pretend that half the Bill of Rights didn't exist and pass a bunch of laws blocking, banning guns and banning, people from protesting. And it was a real shit show. And Virginia is almost fallen off the map because, the dude, I don't remember his name. The dude from Virginia was like, yeah, I can stomp on rights. And here comes Gretchen Whitmer from the state of Michigan, who's all, hold my beer.
and my mascara,
and
no
she
doubt.
So hold my wine spritzer. Was that sexist?
I don't know. She used another one, just like the mayor of Chicago, I believe, that had a hairstylist come in to do her hair, even though everybody else, no barbers, no good to the hair, no bad.
I had to sharpen my cat's claws and put her on my head. The latest news that I read from Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan was that the emergency declaration that 6 weeks ago, when she said, let's shut down all human activity because humans are really good at being caged. That declaration, the emergency declaration that supposedly gave her the power to halt everybody's lives, whether they were sick or not, expired. It expired, yesterday. And she had been asking the legislature to extend it so that she could continue to disrupt everybody's lives for another month. And the legislature refused to do it, which, may or may not have been a political thing, but I'm kind of in the camp of the legislature, like, let my people go. We cannot remain caged forever, or the world will turn into prison life. And then we'll end up having de facto socialism. And then we have to have shooting revolutions, and I don't want to get shot. But because the legislature did not bow to her demands to extend the lockdown of Michigan for another month, instead, she let the emergency that she declared expire. And then she went ahead and used an executive order to declare a new emergency. And there is something really fucking wrong that all of these state laws that say, in an emergency, we need to just give the governor absolute power to do it. Every state has these laws that say that all we have to do is declare an emergency. And once we've decided that it's an emergency, all of your rule of law and your constitutional protections and everything that protects people from government overbearance, all of the things that the country was founded on when they created the Bill of Rights and said, these are things government shouldn't do. All that goes out the window. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court has confirmed that all you have to do is say it's an emergency.
Public safety. And, that's the magic words, right?
Yeah. Well, I've got a rant about public safety that I've recorded and haven't edited to get to you. It was, I made extensive notes about that one. So I said, well, is this something that would be interesting? And you're like, that sounds like a new product. And I said, work. But anyways, these state governors, and the biggest one, the place where you saw it coming down the pipe forever was we are nationally, the United States is still in a state of emergency that was declared after 9/11, which was please give me, the president, the power to send troops anywhere in the world so that we can rebelize places and bend them to our political will. And that became so politically convenient